There is no red, white, or blue in this country. The only color that matters is green because we live in the United Corporations of America. Greetings, salutations this fine Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, wherever you are watching in the United Corporations of America. Jordan Sheridan, my colleague, Ashley Bishop. The inaugural episode of Status Sunday, which we believe is going to revolutionize the internet and part all that is wrong in the world. We decided we're going to start lives, going live on Sundays for many reasons, but all kind of make Status Coup, for lack of a better word or phrasing, a bit of a destination on Sundays. So with our live stream, which we're going to have pretty much every week, give or take, obviously when we're on the ground, if it's Ashley's on the ground or I'm on the ground, we're not probably going to be live in studio on Sundays, but we're going to have rotating hosts. So it'll be my ugly face today with Ashley. Next week, we're going to have Zaina Day, who's been doing great work for us, with Chuck Modi, who's a great independent journalist. And after that, we're just going to kind of rotate familiar faces, new faces. Ashley and I will do probably once a month or as much as my wife will allow me. And go from there. And the real goal of this, in addition to kind of making Sunday a thing for Status Coup, make it appointment, they say appointment television, make this appointment internet. Obviously, we are a small independent outlet and we go as far as you take us. So we're going to use these Sunday live streams in addition to great content, covering stories that we feel are falling through the cracks. Also try and push paid membership. Sign up new Status Coup members, which is the lifeblood of Status Coup. So we are going to shout out folks that sign up during the Sunday live stream. You could sign up for as low as $5 a month. That's 16 cents a day. And that's really one of the big goals of this, to use Sundays as a membership drive. So we'll be live for you covering important stories, also talking about and showing you our on-the-ground reporting that we do more than any other outlet, mainstream or independent, really spotlight our on-the-ground journalism, but also try and sign up more members. Honestly, as real as I could get, as real as I could be, if we don't sign up more paid members, we can't really expand. We're not able to print money out of our behinds like the federal government. So to have Ashley, to have other reporters, we got to hire a producer, all the monthly costs we have, travel costs, it adds up. So we're hoping if you're not a member, this show on Sundays will really inspire you to sign up. StatusCoup.com/join, $5 a month, and we'll promote it throughout the show. Also, with our live stream, if you are a Status Coup Substack member, we are also launching today. We already sent it out, our Sunday morning newsletter, which, Ashley, tell the masses you work night and day on this thing. Tell them about the Status Coup Sunday newsletter.
Yeah, it was a 2-day long push to cover some stories that we think that I think are kind of excuse me, slipping under the radar. So there were a few climate-based stories that I think everybody should read. There's one about a woman who is filing a climate accountability lawsuit and suing Big Oil over the wrongful death of her mother during one of the heat waves in 2021. So that's an important story to read. There was, I also highlighted a story from Luke Goldstein at The Lever that I thought was great. So it's a lot of that. There's like 10 different stories that, again, kind of slipped through the cracks this week that I went through. And there's also a lot of our on-the-ground reporting and kind of just highlighting what we've been doing this week. It was a lot of what John has been doing. So he's covered 2 major protests that, we linked to the videos of and ran through a little bit. So there's a lot of that. I think going forward, this was kind of like a test run to see, what the format would be, how much I would be able to cover and still make it readable. I think it will probably be a little bit shorter going forward, but I would also like to highlight a little bit more of our on the ground reporting going forward. So this week there's only like 3 on there, but again, we'll do more of that. It was fun to go through though. It was fun to write up for you guys. And yeah, I think everyone should give it a read and let me know what you think. And I will make adjustments as we go forward.
Absolutely. So you know the drill. Smash that like button, share this live stream. A lot of people might not know we're live now on Sundays. We're starting at 1 o'clock, going until about 3 o'clock Eastern, give or take. If a lot of people sign up as members, I'll stay here till sunset if I have to. But we got to sign up members. So please, we are live for you, but also to grow. So definitely sign up, statuscoup.com/join. If you're already a member, we appreciate anything more you could do. You could leave a super chat. We'll read them at the end. You could also donate. That's statuscoup.com/donate. All right. A little bit later, we're going to have a guest on from East Palestine, Ohio, because I hate to say I told you so, but everything we've reported for the last 2 years, that this is another corporate sacrifice zone, that people are sick, that it should have been evacuated after Norfolk Southern, a multi-billion-dollar company, unnecessarily nuked the town. Well, everything we told you is now coming out as true. There has been major news that broke and emails that show the EPA, FEMA, no, it is toxic there. And while they were telling the public everything's fine, privately they were saying everything is not fine. So we're going to have a guest on from East Palestine later, as well as our lawyer. But I wanted to start. Some people might not like that because they think the most important thing in the world to cover is Trump. And I think what we're about to talk about is connected to Trump, who is doing all sorts of awful, I think, fascist things. But the real question is, how do you stop this man? And as of now, right or wrong, Ashley, the electoral way to stop him, what we're told, is the Democratic Party. Well, Democratic Party's polling is about on par with lice right now. Vermin, mice, and there is troubling new information about the Democratic Party, what they're taking away from losing to the Orange Man 2 out of 3 times. So first, let's play that video from MSNBC, Colin. It's the one first on the live doc about the, I guess, the reckoning that didn't come.
And I have to say, this was the reckoning that wasn't. Reflecting on so many of those conversations in public and in private over the last 6 months, it struck me that in so many of these worlds, with that promised reckoning, the promised rethinking, what should our party be? What does a pro-democracy movement look like? What should the press function like? There was kind of a smugness and a defensive-ness, and nope, we're doing everything perfectly.
What you're saying, the Democratic establishment?
Well, I think you can go down the list.
Smugness.
So start with the Democratic Party, right?
Right.
Which should really be at the top of the list of what is a profound rethinking of what it means to have a pro-democracy party when you're running against that. Because someone, frontally going after Medicaid, as we were talking about. And you've had no real rethinking. You've had, individual leaders reaching out to people saying, what do we do? What do we do? But anybody who's tried to change anything, David Hogg, others, the DNC kicked out. They picked a very lackluster chair. I would say the other, you look at the progressive movement space where I've also spent time, no real reckoning there. You have just a continued sense of everything we're doing is perfect. Let's just do, the land acknowledgements and all this academic jargony stuff that no one understands, that alienates people that don't understand what those things are. No reckoning there. I think you have, leaders, individual Democratic leaders who have just been completely disappointing to most people watching this, who have not stood up, not showed spine. People have raised their voice. It's the thing I hear most from people. You haven't had one leadership shuffle. You haven't had one new leader. You haven't had anybody say, you know what, I'm not adequate to this moment. This sounds like a very negative analysis, and it is, but I think what I wanted to call people's attention to is there's a risk of becoming Trump-like in opposing Trump. There's a risk in becoming as defensive, as smug, as self-certain, as incurious. Incuriosity was sort of the thing I found the most. And all these people and institutions who said, we have to look at ourselves. No one, as far as I can tell, ended up really looking at themselves. And no one has ended up really saying, we need a completely different kind of party. We need to report the news differently. What does anybody think they need to do differently 6 months on? I don't think you stand up for democracy with values of kind of closedness. And I think the value of curiosity, openness, is the only way to beat whatever Donald Trump.
Maybe Morning Joe should be listening to that too, because they seem to their reckoning was we were too woke. That's why we lost. And don't worry, folks, because we do have some kind of MSNBC refugees here who don't like us criticizing the Democratic Party. There's a point. We're just winding up. We're about to get to the point. Ashley, before I get to the next part of the Democratic Party's reckoning, any thoughts on that? Not major breaking news, I would say.
No, I mean, it's been 6 months since the election, and he's correct. The Democrats have not done any real soul searching. They have doubled down on. It was the messaging. The messaging was bad, and that's been kind of it. And we'll go through some more that kind of hammers home that that's what they're doing, and that's what they will continue to do. They will do anything that they can to avoid addressing the actual concerns that people who would vote for Democrats have. And again, like we are going to get into that a little bit more later, in the show. But I don't know. That's kind of it. That is the hill that they're determined to die on. That it's just Absolutely. The messaging. We need to find some other way to talk to voters, and that's it.
It's the wokes. It's the wokes. Okay. And remember, smash that like button, share this live stream. Very, very important. Comment, all that good stuff. The more people that press like, the more people that comment, share, the more people that will see this. Okay. So apparently now, after they must have watched that, apparently now they are having some type of reckoning. But their reckoning is not to, offer universal health care, free public college, real investment in the, putting out the climate inferno, raising the minimum wage for the first time in 16 years. Apparently, their reckoning is let's spend $20 million to learn how to talk to young men. Let me restate that. Let's spend $20 million to learn how to communicate with the Rogan viewer, with the young men. I'm going to read this part from the New York Times because it's just it's too cartoonish. I feel like I'm reading The Onion. This is from the New York Times article, Colin. For now, Democratic donors and strategists have been gathering at luxury hotels, oh boy, to discuss how to win back working class voters, commissioning new projects that could read like anthropological studies of people from faraway places. The prospectus for one new $20 million effort obtained by the Times aims to reverse the erosion of Democratic support among young men, especially online. It is codenamed SAM. What is this, like secret ops? Short for Speaking with American Men, a strategic plan, and promises investment to, quote, study the syntax. It's like a science project. Syntax, language, and content that gains attention and virality in these spaces. It recommends buying advertisements in video games, among other things. Above all, we must shift from a moralizing tone. Colin, not to put you on the spot, and I know your camera doesn't work, but as the resident video game player here, would you be more apt to the Democratic Party's message if you heard it while you were playing Call of Duty or whatever you play these days?
Yeah, I'm not even sure. I guess they're talking about adware games, but it's funny because the association, most people I know, if a ad pops up while you're playing a game, your first reaction is to get angry at that ad, not to actually listen to it or hear what it has to say. Is to be like, well, I'm going to be angry and ignore this because it's interrupting one of my 5 minutes of free time I have a day. I don't think that's going to sway as many people as they think.
We just saved the Democratic Party $20 million. All they need to do is talk to Colin. Unbelievable. Thank you. We'll come back to you in a minute. So I know this sounds like I'm just mocking for the hell of it. Oh, let's play that CNN. There's 2 clips I want to play about this. CNN, of course, they're going to say this is rubbish, right? Well, no, apparently CNN says, duh. Let's play that.
You're the man here. I will not mansplain you. All I will say is, duh.
Yeah, I know. Look, they should have probably recognized this a couple of cycles before when this trend was growing very apparent. This was a huge problem for them in the past election cycle, and they need to figure it out, because right now the Democratic message is really all over the place. What are they exactly they stand for as they head into the midterm elections? But right now it's a hope, really, among the Democratic leaders that that voters will recoil what they view as overreach from the Trump administration. They will make the argument that they need to be a check on Trump's power and to use Trump's push to move ahead with this so-called big beautiful bill, which rail about the tax cuts and for that do benefit wealthy taxpayers, also other taxpayers too, but that does have an impact for them, and the impact on lower income working class voters, the healthcare cuts that they can face. Can they make that effective argument to win back the majority? We'll see.
You gotta love yeah, it does benefit wealthy people a little bit more, like to the tune of like 85%. The bill benefits wealthy people. Okay, so CNN thinks this is obvious. They're on the side of let's reach young men while playing video games and learning syntax and talking to them. I mean, I think I'm still a young man. I'm 38. I think I'm a millennial tech. I'm not Gen Z, but I don't know. Is that young enough? Am I young enough?
I think so. I'm personally invested in the answer being yes. So
okay, yes, that's true.
I think yes.
Okay, Colin's younger than me, so Colin has already said he doesn't want their ads while he's playing video games. All right, so one more clip. This one on the other side of the idiot street, MSNBC.
Yeah, good questions. One, let me save the folks from the Times and all the other great, print outlets some time. If you dig in on what Democrats are researching right now, you're going to find a lot of silly stuff. You're going to find people asking a lot of questions, people asking about syntax and do I drop the G from this word and this and that, and it's going to be a lot of that. So let me just warn everybody, that process is going to be very obnoxious for this 40-something. I would also say, we're really talking about young men, right? Young men who Democrats have not figured out a consistent pitch for how to get in front of. And I think it starts with authenticity.
Oh, boy. Okay. Now that we've wounded it up, and remember, smash that like button, share this live stream, and we're here for you folks. So we need your super chats, we need donations, we need anything you could give us so we could grow. That's why we're doing this on Sundays. Yes, they're focusing on young men, but I don't know if the Democratic Party noticed they didn't lose the election because of young men. Latinos, in a very large number, moved over to the right. Even the African-American vote shrunk for Democrats. Overall, the white vote is really shrinking for Democrats. It was really across most demographics. Independents moved over to Trump. So it seems that they believe that they need to focus on the young men when the broader issue is not young men moving away from the Democratic Party. It is working people moving away from the Democratic Party. But I am here for you, Democratic Party. I am here, and Ashley is here to save you the $20 million, because we're about to give you the answer. We're about to give you the syntax. We're about to give you the cheat code for how to reach the young men, the old men, all sorts of men, women, old, young, straight, gay, human, extraterrestrial. Emily gifted 10 Status Coup memberships. Now we're talking, Emily. By the way, Colin, on top of all the other tasks I asked you for next Sunday, we need to get the sound effects going. So when people sign up as members, we could blow the horn, pop the champagne, etc. But Ashley, you reported on this recently. I'm going to read this. Maybe, just maybe, this could be part of the Democratic messaging, or dare I say, policy prescription. Politico, of all places, reported after the election, voters were right about the economy. The data was wrong. Quote, I don't believe those who went into this past election taking pride in the unemployment numbers understood that the near record low unemployment figures, the figure was a mere 4.2% in November, counted homeless people doing occasional work as employed. But the implications are powerful. If you filter the statistic to include as unemployed people who can't find anything but part-time work, or who make a poverty wage, roughly $25,000, the unemployment percentage is actually 23.7. Ashley, I'm not good at math. If we round 23.7, isn't that pretty close to 25%?
It is quite close.
And when was the last time the unemployment in the United Corporations of America was 25%?
Yeah, that was during the Great Depression. So
yes. So
that
the real,
is quite troubling.
As Politico of all places points out, the functional unemployment rate in America today, 1 out of 4 people are unemployed. And actually, I think this is an undercount, if you ask me. Let us know what you think in the chat. So I don't know, Ashley. I would assume some of that 23.7% is young men graduating college during an AI apocalypse, young men graduating college, or young professionals that are out of college living in their parents' basement, where there is no full-time work, or there is full-time work, but it's shitty full-time work for shitty pay, or they have to work a full-time job plus drive an Uber, or I could keep going down the list. Could that be why young men might be moving away from the Democratic Party?
I think probably. I love their like hyper focus on just young men to the exclusion of like everybody else in this moment, as if none of these things are affecting anybody else.
Right.
And it's just crazy because they will do anything to not talk about the real thing. They will spend $20 million to figure out how to speak to young American men. $20 million. That, I don't know, could be used for other things, like addressing the actual problem, which is that people feel like their material lives are shit right now, and don't seem like they're going to get any better, because they're not going to get any better, because we have Democrats who, instead of addressing those things, they're running studies and talking about syntax. And my undergrad degree is in anthropology and linguistics, and
this is up your alley.
I'm vaguely, or not vaguely, I'm slightly offended that they are doing this in the name of anthropology and linguistics, and doing it terribly and incorrectly, because they're morons. I don't know. It could not be any more obvious what the problem is. People are struggling. Working people are struggling. That is why they have fled the Democrats. Like, it makes sense.
And let's not get it twisted. If anyone's new here, this is not an endorsement of the Republicans. The Republicans are showing you right now they are equally, if not worse, than the Democrats. They're about to slash Medicaid, probably kill millions of people. They are gutting the environment, which you should read our Status Coup Substack newsletter that Ashley did this morning. A lot of great stories, including environmental stories you might not know about. I mean, we could go down the list. The insane shit RFK is doing. So this is not an endorsement of the Republicans, but human nature, if you are told for decades by the party of the working people, we're the party of the working people, but they're not doing anything for the working people, you're either going to stop voting, or you are more susceptible to phony populists. This is not just happening in America. This is a global phenomenon with this phony populism, which is really just right-wing authoritarianism masquerading as populism. So let's continue here. because again, this is free consultation for the Democratic Party. The Democratic National Committee, you got to be watching. I'm saving you tons of money. Ashley is saving you tons of money. We're not even asking for a cut here.
Nope.
Okay? And let us know what you think in the chat. So not only is the problem the fucking masses are starving. This is from the Washington Post, getting back to the young kids. And I am offended, too, that the Democratic Party only wants to talk to young men. Why don't you learn to talk to everyone? But millennials had it bad financially. Gen Z may have it worse. Gen Z is the youngest of the young. Move over, millennials. There's a new generation being walloped by the economy. Generation Z has been disproportionately pummeled by rising prices, higher housing costs, larger student loan balances, and more overall debt than the millennials before them. While both generations came of age in the midst of an economic upheaval, Gen Z is spending more on necessities than millennials did at the same age, according to a Washington Post analysis. Millennials are between 28 and 43. Gen Z is generally age 12 to 27. So far, Gen Z workers are more likely to go to college, have jobs, and make more money than millennials did, but they're also paying 31% more for housing than their counterparts were a decade ago after adjusting for inflation. I would add they're paying more for electric, utilities, not to mention their student loans. Spending on a car insurance by people aged 16 to 24 more than doubled between 2012 and 2022. BLS data shows, while health insurance spending for that age group is up 46% after inflation. Just saying, we had a health executive killed within the last 6 months. By comparison, inflation-adjusted earnings for the cohort have risen much less in the same period by 26%. Gen Z consumers have seen their finances significantly impacted by the pandemic and its aftermath, even more so than the challenges faced by millennials. I don't know, Ashley. I don't think you need an anthropology degree. I don't think you need a archaeological degree. I don't think you need to be a chemist, a biologist, a linguist. The people are fucking starving. The people are treading water. The people, contrary to all the bullshit that we hear from Republicans when they're in office and Democrats when they're in office, what we hear from CNBC and CNN and MSNBC and all the cabal of politicians and media making love together. The economy is not good.
No.
It's good for wealthy people. It's not good for the proletariat. Maybe young people say, we don't even need you to talk to us. We don't want to hear from you. Just make shit cheaper. Just make life affordable. Just, I don't know, maybe hoard the money less. And we'll vote for you.
Yeah.
I don't know, Ashley. You went to cover it. Did you just cover rallies with like an 83-year-old bringing out like 20, 30,000 people basically saying what I'm saying now?
I sure did. And I think that we're going to have some clips from that, or at least one clip from that later in the show. But yeah, I mean, almost everyone that I spoke to cited some kind of material struggle just as a working person. And that's what brought them out to see Bernie. That everything is just year over year getting worse and worse. And, if you have kids, like, people can't afford to live. People can't afford to live. You can't afford to have children. Some of us can't afford to have children. Like, that is what we're looking at right now. And again, that is what the majority of people who I spoke to at the Bernie rallies, they cited that. Like, I spoke to one woman who had lost her job in December and couldn't find another one. And she was there with, I believe, her mother and her daughter, who was a teenager, and they were struggling. She, like, I felt really, really awful. But as we were talking about this, she just mentioned that she had been laid off, and she, had like tears in her eyes. That's what people are talking about. That's why people are coming out to see Bernie, because he's the only one who has offered anything, or not even just like offered anything. He is the only one who has actually like just said, I see that you're struggling, let alone like offering some kind of like policy prescription. He's at least not like gaslighting people into saying everything's fine. The economy's fine. You must be mistaken. Your bank account must be mistaken. Everything that you are seeing, you're lying about. So it's like it wouldn't take much to at least like gesture in the direction of people's struggles.
And to be clear, all this was happening before Trump 2.0.
Absolutely.
It's going to get worse, to be clear. Trump is a buffoon. His tariffs are absurd, and they're devastating large portions of America. But all this economic rot was happening before Trump. So this is not like just because we put Trump in the headline, this is not like a Trump-specific state. The U.S. economy has been smoke and mirrors for decades. Okay? And that's why Status Coup exists, to go out on the ground and put a face to the reality of what's going on, not the bullshit that is the narratives that you get from mainstream media and, frankly, a lot of independent media, unfortunately, but to put a face to it. And we're going to show you some of those clips as well. But I just want to give you some other numbers so the Democratic Party could save its 20 million and realize maybe this should be, forget the message, do something on the policy, change the policy, tell your donors, sorry, we're going to actually do for the people. And guess what? The people will then donate to you. And then you don't have to suck off Wall Street 24/7, excuse my French, because the people will donate. Now, in addition to those alarming statistics about Gen Z, here's some other numbers. The bottom 60% of U.S. households, including young men, don't make enough money to afford a minimal quality of life, according to a new analysis. This came out recently. And again, I think a lot of these numbers are kind of an undercount, because minimal quality of life is, eye of the beholder. But this statistic is very similar, Ashley, to the one where a couple years ago, 40% or something like that of Americans don't have $400 in their bank account in case of emergency. There's been other ones, don't have $1,000. Bottom 60% of U.S. Significantly over half of the country basically are treading water. That's what that means. And we want to talk about every election as a fight for democracy. Maybe that's why the whole democracy message didn't work, because so-called democracy is not working for 60% of the country. This is what I try and tell the people in my life that are like kind of MSNBC viewers and they're doing okay. They mean well, a lot of them. I think a lot of liberals mean well, but they're kind of living in an echo. They're kind of living in like that TV show, The West Wing, like this grandiose liberal, neoliberal utopia where like politicians do the right thing and it's good versus evil. No, they're all fucking corrupt.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Here's some more for you. A U.S. household now needs to earn $114,000 annually to afford a medium-priced home. That's up 70% from $67,000 just 6 years ago. So you need to basically earn six figures to get like an average home. That's the American dream, they say, is home ownership. Correct, Ashley?
Yeah. I mean, I don't I don't know who would be able to do this. I mean, not 114,000 is way far off from the average wage in this country. And the fact that it's up, as they said, 70% from just a few years ago. I mean, it was unaffordable a few years ago. Who can afford this now? And it's, if we have Republicans trying to incentivize women to have more babies, but you can't afford a house to live in to raise those babies. So it's all insane.
I'll tell you who could afford it. The buffoons gathering at nice hotels at these Democratic retreats, or concocting messaging plans to talk to young men and understand the syntax. That's who could afford those homes. I'll tell you who else could afford it. The buffoons on these CNN and MSNBC panels who do pretty well. That's about all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous messaging. Here's some more. U.S. foreclosures filings rose nearly 14% in April compared to a year earlier. That's not even mentioning the insanely high interest rates to get a home. U.S. homelessness hit record highs in 2024. That from the BBC. You know, U.S. homelessness, not covered on the news, rose 18% in 2024. And again, that is an undercount, I believe, because it doesn't factor in people couch surfing. And as we've covered on the ground, it's hard to really get an accurate number for the homeless, because people, homeless people move. And this is not counting people who are just kind of nomads, don't have a home, don't own a home, don't rent, but just kind of move around. Welcome, new Status Coup member Dave just signed up. Now we're moving, baby. And by the way, as we get the kinks worked out, because we didn't have everything ready, on Sunday is when we get new members signing up. We're going to have the sound effects. We're also going to have a nice member meter to show our numbers rising, to show the exact number of members and grow that meter as we grow. And keep those super chats coming. We'll read it at the end. $20 from Judith. Thanks for all the truth telling and on the ground coverage. Much gratitude. Thank you, Judith. All right. So I'm going to jump around a little bit here because we do have a guest and I don't want them to have to wait too long. As all of these are happenings, I want to show you a Republican this week. This was her answer to concerned constituents about the Medicaid cuts that are about to come.
When you are arguing about illegals that are receiving Medicaid benefits, 1.4 million, 1.4, they are not eligible, so they will be coming off. So people are not. Well, we all are going to die. So, for heaven's sakes, folks.
Welcome, new Status Coup member. Steven just signed up. That social Darwinism, that sociopathic soundbite really gets people revved to go sign up as a paying member. I'm not even going to bother showing you the clip. She doubled down after that because she was criticized so much. And she did a video yesterday doubling down. I actually
haven't seen that. I just have to say, like, when I saw that clip, my jaw dropped. Like, I actually went like, did she really just say that? Like, that is crazy. We're all going to die. Like, just because you are such a nihilist doesn't mean that the rest of us are. I don't want to die. I don't want to be forced into like an early grave because I've lost my health care. I don't think you do. I don't think your wife and kids would want that to happen to you. Like, that's just an insane thing to say. And
you know what? I lied. We got to show the second video.
I want to see it.
By the way, she's up for re-election next year. So if you're watching in Iowa, I apologize. You're going to see that ad like 20,000 times because she just gave a gift to whoever's going to be her opponent. She'll probably win again because people like voting against their own interests. But here is her, she was just hammered all over the internet. Here is her response.
Hello, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize for a statement that I made yesterday at my town hall. I was in the process of answering a question that had been asked by an audience member when a woman who was extremely distraught screamed out from the back corner of the auditorium, "People are going to die." And I made an incorrect assumption that everyone in the auditorium understood that, yes, we are all going to perish from this earth. So I apologize. And I'm really, really glad that I did not have to bring up the subject of the tooth fairy as well. But for those that would like to see eternal and everlasting life, I encourage you to embrace my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
That just got better and better as it went on. That was cinema. That was great.
You watched Severance, right?
Yes. Yeah.
She kind of reminds me of Miss Cobell a little bit.
She does. She
Yeah.
does. I totally see that. That was some apology. And to end with talking about first the tooth fairy and then also Jesus. Perfect.
This ain't my first rodeo. I've been doing like investigative on the ground reporting for 10 years, almost 10 years. And really nothing surprises me. I actually thought when I watched the first clip, I thought it was like one of those deep fake videos because I couldn't believe that a politician would be this obvious. Because to be clear, what she's saying, she's acknowledging that, yes, they're going to kill people. So she's not hiding it. Most of the Republicans are saying, oh, we're not cutting Medicaid. Don't believe your lying eyes, even though it's in writing in the bill. So she's acknowledging they're cutting Medicaid for 7.6 million people. And then she's telling you, well, you're going to die anyway. So you'll die a little quicker. What's the difference? I thought it was a fake AI deepfake video. I really did. Because other than remember that Todd Aiken guy remember he said that well, there's legitimate rape or, people real buffoons. There's buffoons in both parties, but it's rare somebody says something that stupid as a politician. So it was not a deep fake. It was a real video, and it's going to be on loop, probably not just in Iowa, all over the country for Democrats. And again, the Democrats are going to get the wrong message that they don't actually have to offer you anything. Let's just say they're idiots. And in the midterms, it might work a little bit because I think the tide will turn against Republicans. In a presidential election, I doubt it. But I want to make the broader point here. And this goes back to the free advice for the Democratic Party, who, to be clear, I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent. I don't have a stake in it. I'd like to get rid of Trump. I can tell you that. But I don't wake up in the morning thinking, how do I elect Democrats? But here's the thing. If you've been noticing in Trump 2.0, some of these Republican town halls, if you didn't know they were a Republican town hall, you would think they're Bernie rallies. You have Republicans, Ashley, screaming out, tax the rich.
Mm-hmm.
You have Republicans screaming at these politicians, even in Georgia, about the cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the Doge cuts. So this is a time, if the Democratic Party wasn't purchased by donors, this is a time when the Democratic Party could be offering real policy to both liberals who are pissed off and conservatives that are pissed off. Kind of what Bernie's doing with this Fight Oligarchy tour. They've been going to red areas like Montana and Idaho. The people, when they're materially affected, human nature, you care when it affects you. The Republicans are pissed because their 401ks went into the shitter with Trump's cascading bipolar tariff stuff. They're pissed off. Medicaid cuts are affecting them. So they don't care if immigrants are deported. They don't care if immigrants are terrorized, but when it affects them, they care. All right, well, maybe the messaging to young people, old people, white people, black people, brown people, glow-in-the-dark people, doesn't matter, is we are going to raise your wages. Maybe the messaging, we're going to raise your wages and not have it take 5 years to go up. Because even if they raise the minimum wage, Ashley, it takes 5 years to go into full effect. We're going to actually deliver a universal health care program. Maybe we're going to, instead of sending God knows how much at this point to Israel and every other country we're sending, maybe we're going to redistribute that money towards massive climate investment so we could save the planet. I mean, I could go on and on. I think that would be a pretty popular message. Maybe we're going to put universal rent control out there and tell the real estate developers that have purchased all of the state and local governments, go purchase somebody else. We're putting universal rent care, and we're putting a cap on home interest rates and home prices. I mean, I could go on. Maybe we're going to push and pass the PRO Act. So to actually put teeth against union busters. It's very simple how to message to young men. They're not some special breed that need extra syntax. You are being gaslit by fucking dishonest buffoons. Not just on CNN and MSNBC. There's so many schmucks that host podcasts TikTok influencers. It's just insane. Any thoughts, Ashley, before we show some of our on the ground reporting that provide more?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had one thought that I was thinking of watching her response. Do you remember when Obamacare was still being debated, and they told all of us that, the Democrats, they're going to instate, what did they say, like death something or other?
Death panels.
Yes, that's it. Death panels. That like all of our like grandparents were going to be put up, to these like death panels, and they were going to decide whether or not they can, live or die via, medical intervention. Like that is what this woman just said. She just said that we're all going to die someday. So like, while that was all stupidity that the Republicans were saying, because they opposed, the ACA. This is like an actual real thing. And it's not just, again, pretend death panels where our grandparents are going to be subject to all of this. It's like actual, we are all losing our health care and people are actually going to die. And that was her response. And it's incredible, the cynicism of this party. It's not even like they've progressed so much in the direction of evil. They've always been this. They've always been this, and it's just so out in the open now.
And one more thing, I want to show some clips because part of what we're going to be doing on Sundays is to spotlight our on-the-ground reporting that, frankly, no one else is doing. I don't even say that arrogantly. Ashley, you've been with us for 2 months. Do you see a lot of national outlets or even independent outlets out covering a lot of the protests you're covering, rallies you're covering?
No, definitely not. I mean, certainly, MSNBC is not out there. CNN isn't out there. Local news is, they show up for these, big events, right? Like if, when the library at Columbia, the Butler Library at Columbia was occupied by students, maybe, I don't even know, maybe 3 weeks ago, a month ago now, there was local news out there. They were there. But when there's, a protest in front of Columbia, like the one outside of the graduation ceremony a few weeks ago, it was just us. It was, me and John, and I don't remember seeing any other camera crews for that one,
and by the way, even when they show up for 5 minutes, get a little footage, and they leave. They're not there talking to the people, that I can tell you. But I bring this up, and I want to be clear, because I don't want YouTube or anyone else to get it twisted. This is not me calling for violence at all. We disown violence. But the reality is, as JFK once said, if you make peaceful resistance impossible, you're going to make violent revolution inevitable. And the more sociopaths like this cut your Medicaid and tell you just take it and, take it and enjoy it. Enjoy your final days on earth. Be happy with the crumbs. Okay? The more you cut, you're going to make some people snap. You're going to make some people snap. Unfortunately, that's going to happen. We've already seen it, obviously, in the healthcare area, and I fear we're going to see it more. I want to show you this clip, courtesy of the great Ashley Bishop, which your support, if you're watching right now and you're asking, well, what am I signing up for? Why are you asking me to pay $5 a month to be a Status Coup member? Besides the great perks you get. As a Status Coup member, you get to join our monthly members call. Which will have the June one coming up. I have a second kid I just had, so I've been a little busy, but we'll get on it. I have my 1 month year old River Sheridan doing great. Mom's doing great. Baby Lily's doing great too. And I'm on my third coffee. That's why I'm so wired. You get to join our monthly members call. We do special behind the scenes content from on the ground for our paid members. You also now get merchandise discounts as a Status Coup member. But to get those merchandise discounts, you got to sign up to our website. You got to sign up to our website to get the merchandise discounts. So that's statuscoup.com/join. If you signed up through YouTube, kindly ask you cancel that YouTube membership, sign up on our website. And we're actually going to make a video explaining why we want people to sign up on our website. But the bottom line is signing up on our website we get the most of your contribution. YouTube takes a hefty cut, and on YouTube, if you sign up on YouTube, we don't have access to your email, which is key. We want your email, not to beg you for money, but to send you our newsletter, to send you our original reporting, etc. We need your email for that. So sign up on our website if you can. I'm losing my train of thought here. But bottom line, we want you to sign up as a member, because when you sign up as a member, you're helping not only our ability to hire Ashley, who other than me is our first other reporter in 8 years. It takes a while if you're not taking massive corporate funding to grow enough to hire people. But we need to hire a producer. We gave Colin a bump, which he deserves a lot. He deserves. We gave John, our cameraman, a bump pay-wise. We are using freelancers like Zaina, Ron, got to pay them. We got to pay camera people when they're on the ground with folks. We have a lot of fixed monthly costs, including $12,000 a fucking year to pay for this live view. The live view is what the digital unit, how we go live. But you're paying for us to be on the ground to show you reality. Colin, let's show the clip. This is Ashley at a recent Bernie rally. And some of you were a little tight. Jordan, stop covering Bernie rallies. He's a sellout. Well, this is why we covered the Bernie rallies. Let's show a woman. Guess how much she's living off of it in the United States of America.
I've been waiting for my Social Security for 4 years. I was approved. They took it back and gave me 12/31/24 as my qualified date. Took away 3 years. So when they approve it, they send you SSI, but I'm approved for SSD. They've been holding those payments for 6 months.
We are going to stand.
It says, someone will get to it within 15 to 30 days. That was 6 months ago.
Because they are after us first. So that
you call, you can't get anyone. You just have them call you back. 100 hours, 200 hours. One woman waited 240 hours. I've waited a whole 24 hours to return. And you just keep logging in and just sitting there. 6 months worth of payment.
Do you feel like this has been worse since the Trump administration has taken off?
A lot worse. They'll put, and then when you get someone on the phone, they're like, I'm sorry, we just answered the phone. And we can't help you with anything, but I corrected my address. Woo, 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 you know? But that was it. Everybody else that can actually help you, they can't. So my case is in Maryland. They took it, moved it from Norristown, because I live in Willow Grove, and put it in Maryland. No one's in Maryland. So when you call, it's just ridiculous wait times, and we'll call you back. I don't think I'm going to get that SSD anytime. So I get the SSI, which is only $967. I use it to fund my nonprofit, and that's it. And I'm used to living off like $150 a month. Don't spend more than that. Then they say, you approve, you get SSI. So they cut the food stamps off.
And celebrate the power of
so I eat rice and vegetables, little things like that. I wish I could eat whatever she's eating. It could be that slim, but no.
That you were there. What are your thoughts? But also, at these rallies, she's not the only one at these rallies you've covered that are in similar situations.
No, I mean that was a really heartbreaking conversation. I actually I had not even approached her for an interview. We just happened to be standing next to each other, and she was, trying to take a break from the heat essentially, and was sitting by the press area. And she just started talking to me. So we thought, it would be good to share her story with people, because I mean, trying to live off of $150, how do you do that? How does anybody do that? That's not possible. That's not a thing. And she was saying that, she is not able to get benefits that she qualifies for, which would help her. I mean, it just kind of broke my heart. She was extremely sweet. And, as you see in the clip, she spends the money that she does have trying to run her nonprofit, doing all of these like extraordinarily selfless things. Again, it was heartbreaking. And I don't know how anyone anywhere could live on $150 a month for food. And like, if you have medication, like how is that even possible? It doesn't make any sense. So, that is why people are flocking to Bernie. That's why those people are there at those rallies, and he's not perfect. There are plenty of legitimate criticisms that you can make. But again, he is the only one who's doing anything. And as you said, like a lot of the other people that I spoke to at those rallies, they echoed the same thing. Maybe not, to such an extreme degree, but people were saying that they're struggling. They're struggling. They've either lost their jobs. There were a few people who lost their jobs that I spoke to, who are now struggling. One person was swept up in the, federal workers layoffs. I mean, if Democrats can't figure out why people don't want to vote for them anymore, then they don't deserve to be in office. Like, they deserve what's happening. They deserve people to be, running in the opposite direction of their party. And it makes sense that people are, like they see the Democrats aren't doing anything. They're telling them, we're struggling. I'm living off $150 a month. And they're not doing anything. They're talking some bullshit about messaging and spending $20 million on it. So, I mean, I wouldn't do this myself, but I understand why some people just say, fuck it. I'm going to vote for the Republicans and watch everything get blown up. Because it's this democracy is not doing anything for me. And if this is what democracy is, it is not worth saving. So I have sympathy for those people.
And so you guys know, again, I'm a broken record, but Mama once said, if you don't fight for yourself, no one will. If you don't advocate for yourself, no one will. So that's why we're pushing on these Sundays membership. Ashley and I have talked about a lot of ideas for on-the-ground reporting. One of them is doing a reporting trip through several states and cities, actually putting a face to all of these cuts, the Doge cuts, the Trump cuts, talking to the people at the youth center that now have nowhere to go because the youth center has been shut down because of the Doge cuts, talking to the substance abuse clinic that has had to cut hours drastically, or the suicide prevention hotline, or the local healthcare clinic. So many areas and crucial services have been cut in cities and even rural areas because of the Doge cuts and the Republican cuts that are about to come. And you kind of get the headlines, you get how much is being cut, but you're not hearing from the people being affected, because that takes actual on the ground, living, breathing journalism, which isn't really a thing nowadays. And we're trying to do it, but it costs money to go on the ground for a reporter and a cameraman, the flights, hotel, rent a car, food. John, God bless him, our cameraman, just sent me a very long list of equipment upgrades he needs. Which we need to get them so that we could be live and the audio works and the visuals look good. But we don't have funding from United Healthcare, Goldman Sachs, Elon Musk, and all the rest of the fucking corporate criminals. Our funding comes from you. So that's why we're asking. I know it might sound like a broken record and you'd be like, Jordan, fuck off. I can't eat. Well, if you can't eat, okay, don't give us money. We get it. If your situation is bad, totally understandable. But if you got $5 a month, listen, no offense to my Starbucks union friends, okay? $5 a month is like a burnt cup of Starbucks coffee. Let's be honest. Starbucks coffee, it's just burnt coffee. That's what actually, let me restate. When you add the Frappuccinos and, they add the little, the one fucking swirl they put in, it's probably Starbucks. But like a small or whatever they call it, tall, grande, I don't know. That's like $5, maybe a little less at Starbucks. You think you could go one day or 1 week without that and redistribute it to real living, breathing on the ground journalism? It's not just that. Think about what you spend, $5, $10. We have different membership plans. So you can spend $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month. We also have an annual plan, $179 annual. I think real living, breathing journalism is worth it. Just my 2 cents. I want to show you while we're waiting on our next guest, because we're going to talk about, everyone's talking about the Biden cognitive cover-up, which I got news for you, and I did a Substack piece on it earlier this week. It's not much of a cover-up because I told you about it in 2020. We told you in 2020 that this man was falling apart. I don't say that to mock him. I don't say that with glee. Everybody gets old. But the guy forgot Obama's name when he was running in 2020. He couldn't remember the president he served for. He was calling himself an Biden-Bama Democrat. He said that he told stories that he marched in the civil rights movement. He didn't. That he worked as a coal miner. He didn't. I think before the South Carolina primary, he talked about, I'm Joe Biden running for U.S. Senate. Before the South Carolina, it was very obvious that something was off here in 2020. And the Jake Tappers and all these people, exposing the Biden cover-up, they told you, oh, you're mocking a man with a stutter. Well, I had a stutter as a young child, and I can tell you, it's not a stutters don't make you forget the president you serve for. They don't make you forget the office you're running for. They don't make you forget where you are. Anyway, but there is a more important Biden cover-up. And it's not just Biden. It's the EPA, the CDC, the health officials, and it's continuing now into the Trump administration. And we have covered this extensively, and we're going to continue covering it. I want to read this to you before bringing on our next guest, because there is major news in terms of the Norfolk Southern nuking of East Palestine, Ohio. And to be clear, it is not just East Palestine, Ohio. For those of you that might not remember, in 2023, you had Norfolk Southern, a train derailed, 150 cars. They unnecessarily detonated 5 cars of highly toxic vinyl chloride, which is linked to cancer, among other things. It wasn't just vinyl chloride that reigned over the community, not just East Palestine, Western Pennsylvania. A toxicologist I have spoken to extensively, his analysis shows that toxic plume traveled as far as 8 states, including Canada. So obviously East Palestine is ground zero, Western Pennsylvania is ground zero, but the effects were much wider than just that area. And it was obvious because we've been there 8 times that the whole message from the EPA, the CDC, FEMA, nothing to see here. Well, if you go there, I got sick every time I was there. I got headaches every time I was there, and I don't get sick. I think Colin did too. Our other cameraman, John Farina, got sick. Lewis, who was our freelance reporter there several times, got sick. So that's just us. We got to leave. But I was just there 6 months ago. We're going to show you clips. I mean, it is a horror zone in terms of illness, physical and mental. But now, great reporting by News Nation, who's pretty much, other than us, the only outlet that has stayed on this. FEMA and the White House covered up the East Palestine devastation. Colin, if you have that article. Burned 5 tankers containing 115,000 gallons of toxic vinyl chloride over East Palestine. Residents were sick and crying out for help. In September 2023, 7 months later, President Biden issued an executive order sending FEMA executive Jim McPherson to East Palestine to assess the community's unmet needs. But new documents from FEMA obtained through the Freedom of Information Act show extensive coordination between FEMA, the White House, the National Security Council, the EPA, and the Department of Justice, voicing serious concerns about health, toxins, and the unmet need of East Palestine following the train derailment. I'm adding this isn't from the article. They were voicing privately serious concerns while publicly telling folks everything's fine. But publicly, the message was that there was nothing to those concerns. Quote, it showed that FEMA knew healthcare was the #1 issue, Leslie Pacey told News Nation. Pacey, who we've had on before, is an investigator with the Government Accountability Project who sued to get these documents when FEMA refused to turn them over. I wonder why FEMA wouldn't hand them over. Quote, they also knew that they called this plume a really toxic plume. They knew that there would be the potential for cancer clusters, Pacey said. The agency noted in the private emails, quote, the occurrence of a cancer cluster in East Palestine is not zero, and expressed the need for, quote, a tripwire to identify cancer clusters. Pacey added, it was only discussed internally, and it actually was discussed all the way up to the White House. Quote, There's White House officials and National Security Council officials discussing the dangers of the cancer cluster potential and the health issues, and discussing whether or not to release the unmet needs report to the public and to the media. They never released the, quote, unmet needs report to the public or the media, and the FEMA coordinator sent here by Biden wouldn't meet with the residents. Quote, a lot of us emailed and called that person and never got through. Eventually, there was something said that he didn't need our anecdotal reports, reported resident Krista Graves, who we're about to interview, told Newsday. Yeah, we don't need the reports from the fucking poison people. Pacey said McPherson was, quote, nicknamed by residents as the ghost of October because they were expecting him to be there in October but never could get a hold of him. The email reveals that the FEMA coordinator was told not to engage with residents. Hey, if you're watching from Flint, sound familiar? Residents in East Palestine say it's criminal negligence. Quote, we're supposed to believe that that's not how our country runs, Graves said, and I'm starting to see that's how our country is always run. Joining us now is Krista Graves, one of the many residents from East Palestine that has been drastically and negatively affected. In addition, her lawyer, Christina Bayer, who's representing, I believe, over 700 now residents in East Palestine. There's another story we want to get to. This is about the CDC. So it's not just the EPA, it's the CDC. But before we get to that, Krista, let me start with you. How are you doing? I know that's a dumb question because I know the answer, but tell the audience how you others are doing, because I still speak with residents, and there is definitely something to see here.
I would say we're doing the best we can. We're thankful that we found a law team that we feel confident with, for once, finally. But people are still sick. People are still homeless. People are still in secondary housing situations. There are people still paying 2 mortgages, sick with things that they should not have had, cancers and organ failures and endocrine problems and thyroid issues. You know, you hear a lot about nosebleeds and headaches and rashes, cognitive problems, memory problems. The list goes on endlessly, as you know. We had a list of 95 symptoms that just the way they were reported to us as residents. Ashley had made that list. Things aren't great here. And I've even seen people saying, well, yeah, I've had changes in my health, but my doctor says it's just my age. And they've done that to my mom, too. When I encouraged her to go to that clinic in town, they giggled and covered their mouth and said, that's your age. Well, her age was the same before she returned to East Palestine and didn't have these problems. They broke HIPAA by telling me outside of her permission that they didn't think her memory problems were related to the derailment when she didn't have problems like that prior to coming back. This is not I'm not the only one. As you know, you've talked to many of us. There are lots and there's so many that they'll talk to us privately, but they're not going to come forward.
And
they don't want to face the harassment.
And it's very similar to my experience covering Flint. Tell me if this has been the issue. This has been common. But when I talk to people who live in East Palestine or Western Pennsylvania, if they're lucky enough to get away for a couple days, a week, some people have moved to trailers out of town, their symptoms clear up. But when they're forced to come back pretty quickly, their symptoms come back. Has that been your experience?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty common. Some people might need to be away longer for it to clear up. Other people might have a pretty immediate relief. And it's just tragic. History sets the precedence on what to do with this, with Love Canal and Times Beach. And there was an interview, I believe it was on February 7th, where Trent said there is talk of a 1 to 2 mile buyout. And now you cannot find that footage anywhere. He said in a city council meeting recently that he did fight for a buyout. But if you go back and look at Love Canal and Times Beach, the leaders fought with the residents. And I'm hoping maybe since Norfolk seems to have taken their thumb off of him or, set him free, I just feel like they really tried to control him a lot. I don't know the man, but
you're talking about the mayor of East Palestine.
Yeah. And I wouldn't want his position in this. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine.
Before we move on to the CDC part of this, because that's a secondary scandal, I want to ask you, the fact that they're saying basically, yeah, this could be a cancer cluster. The fact that they're saying privately, hey, just let's keep it here. Let's not talk to the residents. I mean, what does that say to you? Because you've literally, and we exposed him, you had an EPA official on the ground for 2 years, basically, in my opinion, giving you lip service that everything's fine. Our testing is showing nothing abnormal. We can't draw a straight line between the derailment and all your symptoms. I mean, essentially, it seems to me they were telling you publicly nothing to see here, but privately they're clearly saying maybe we should be doing more here.
There was a lot of that. There was FOIA, I think, released on the first anniversary, where somebody from Superfund was asking somebody else, shouldn't we be getting involved here? And no, that was the answer. No, this isn't it. Something about declaring a public health emergency. Oh no, that's only ever been done once in Libby, Montana. There's so many instances where they've covered up. And there's times that the EPA coordinator here would tell us one thing to our face, and then we'd see him on TV in a few minutes or a day later saying exactly the opposite. And you've heard some of the recordings of what he said to people in person.
Right.
It's disgraceful, but it's a playbook, and it's been happening for decades. It happened in Love Canal. It happened in Times Beach. You came into contact with Flint, and it's continued on to Conyers, Georgia, and Moss Landing, and I'm sure other places that had disasters in the meanwhile. This isn't what we're taught our country does, but it is in fact what they do historically.
Right. And I want to move on to the CDC part, but we do have a lot of new subscribers in recent months. So some of you, I want to really put a face to this because I want you to understand people are sick. I was there. I think this clip was from 6 months ago, perhaps, maybe a little longer. But within the last 6 months to a year. And residents just kind of rolled up and I got 7 or 8 people together just to interview them. What you're about to hear is not 5 years ago. It's like 6 months ago. And these are residents, different ages, that are in ground zero while the media has moved on for the most part, while politicians, we'll get to Trump and Mr. Vance in a minute, have moved on. That's why we say this is called a corporate sacrifice zone, because they have been sacrificed. Colin, if you have the clip where I'm on the front porch with a bunch of folks.
But still, we have to make it work with the mistakes that they did, and no one's willing to test in my home. I have to do it myself. My house has formaldehyde above the allowed limits to live in, vinyl chloride inside and outside, and we're still waiting on anything to happen. People are still getting sick. We have kids that are going through puberty issues with hormones. They're getting acne at age 6.
And the puberty issues are coming years before puberty would normally start.
I'm not a doctor. Keep that straight. I'm not a doctor. I've talked to people. I do know from having a family member that did go through early puberty. Now, it is very uncommon for a whole town and surrounding areas to have kids around the age 6, 7, and 8 to have hormones to produce puberty.
I suffered through severe heart failure. My wife has high blood pressure. My one stepdaughter gets nosebleeds. And my 8-year-old, she's 9 now, but my 8-year-old daughter is one of the ones that Ashley was just talking about with going through puberty at 8 years old.
Were you and your wife and your kids having these issues before the derailment detonation?
Absolutely not. We were perfectly fine. Since this has happened, I've been unable to work. Like I said, my wife, she had like stroke level high blood pressure. My heart, it grew to double the size. My ejection fraction went down to 16%.
To get too personal, but you mentioned your 8-year-old daughter is now developing puberty in terms of her a cycle, or?
She's had multiple. We actually just went to a doctor about a month ago or so. She actually had got an injection. She has to get every 3 months for a while just to pause it.
So that's in East Palestine. I've interviewed multiple times. If we have time, we'll play it later. A man in his 60s who has double breast cancer in Western Pennsylvania, just a few miles. Breast cancer is very rare in men, much less double breast cancer. Unfortunately, he's not doing well. Talked to women. I've interviewed women who are all of a sudden got dementia at a relatively low age, younger age. I mean, we could go down the list, and they're being told everything's fine. Norfolk Southern, some might look at a settlement number of $600 million and say that's a lot of money. Well, it's not a lot of money when you're talking about a place that unfortunately might become one of the worst cancer clusters very quickly. Before I bring you in, Christina, I just want to move on to the CDC part of this, because this also recently came out. The CDC told health providers not to treat residents after East Palestine. We actually broke part of this story 2 years ago. But this is part of the lawsuit going on right now that you're involved with. 2 years after the Norfolk Southern train derailment in East Palestine and the subsequent toxic plume of smoke that devastated the area, a lawsuit against Norfolk Southern alleges a conspiracy to deny health care to those impacted. Tara Hicks, Krista Graves, Krista's with us right now, and Lonnie Miller are among the 793 East Palestine residents involved in the litigation against Norfolk Southern and more than 50 other defendants, including state and local agencies involved in the investigation and cleanup. The lawsuit alleges a conspiracy to deny health care on behalf of Vanguard, BlackRock, Mercy Health, and Quest. Vanguard and BlackRock are significant owners. I believe one of the largest owners of Norfolk Southern. Quote, "We've been lied to from the beginning," said Hicks. "They've said everything is fine, and when we know that's not the case, and now we're finding out for a fact that we're right, we've been poisoned." The lawsuit cites the CDC for, quote, "failure to ensure proper public health response, testing, and medical support for the affected residents of East Palestine." It also alleges the CDC, quote, "negligently instructed health professionals and testing facilities not to test for dioxins and other toxic chemicals, denying residents accurate diagnosis." This is your lawsuit that is going on right now. So tell me, I guess I'll start with you, Krista. You're one of those being represented. This is another thing you guys were screaming at for pretty quickly, right out of the gate, that we're not even able to get tested for certain things because doctors were telling you they're being told not to test.
Yeah, we knew that early. There were doctors who had said, there were doctors' wives who had overheard the Zoom, and then Dr. Chai was very, very upfront and out in the public about it. And somehow it seemed many still didn't really believe that it was true. I'm surprised at that at this point in the game and heartbroken for them because the betrayal is significant. You're trusting these people with your families, and they're the only people that we have. I mean, who do you go to besides the doctor? And who do they go to besides the governing bodies? This was an atrocity of justice and an atrocity towards human beings. That's the biggest thing, is none of our families asked for this. Not one asked for the risk that will be faced for the rest of our life. Wayne O'Connell, as you know, is not doing real well. His family is struggling, and he deserves better than that. His family deserves better than that. Pennsylvania dropped the ball as badly, if not worse, than Ohio. They didn't even allow their 1 mile residents to evacuate until Sunday night. A lot of people don't realize how close to the border it is. I had heard different independent experts throwing out different mileage zones for the vent burn evacuation, but it was not 1 mile. I heard 50 to 75 miles. They really all just sacrificed everybody here. And the amount of manipulation of the data and of the presentation of what happened really has most of the people who aren't feeling symptoms right now feeling like we must be crazy. We must be the ones that have a mental problem. We're just conspiracy theorists, when this is exactly what we've been saying from the beginning.
And Christina, you're one of the lead counsels representing almost 800 residents. First off, can you kind of talk about, obviously, to represent them, you're talking to these folks. What are some of the health, physical and mental symptoms you're still seeing? Not like we're talking over 2 years later. And it seems to me it's not just what do they say? It's always the cover up is worse than the crime. The crime, we know, I believe it is a crime personally, what Norfolk Southern did. But it seems to me you have evidence here that these agencies were trying to basically conceal information, conceal that it was a lot worse than it was.
That's exactly what happened. The CDC came in and looked at sick people and said, you're not sick. And then they told the doctors not to help. Don't test. So I've talked to lots of clients and people affected who told me that they went to the doctor that night and the emergency rooms turned them away. Why? Because the CDC and the EPA told them to. And we actually have the letter from the CDC and the EPA that said, don't test these people. Testing is not advised. But there were, I always say in these situations, look for the helpers. And there were some helpers. And there were very good doctors from Penn Medicine, for example, University of Cincinnati, University of Kentucky, who wrote a contrary letter that said, no, please do test people and ask at a minimum for complete blood count, metabolic panel, liver function. So the good guys were saying, no, you can help these people. But the ones who were supposed to be advising and helping the CDC and the EPA were telling them not to help.
Right. And to be clear, part of specifically for vinyl chloride, which obviously was detonated, vinyl chloride linked to several different types of cancer and other health issues. But the CDC was claiming, well, we're instructing not to test for it because it metabolizes through your system so quickly that you won't find it after 24 hours. Well, that's assuming that it has dissipated and it's no longer in the environment with people being exposed to it consistently.
It's also not true because people did get tested and did have positive results.
Right.
And they literally took the test off the market. Quest took the test off the market right after this happened. Why? Because they don't want to know. And we saw the same thing in Red Hill in Hawaii, by the way, the exact same thing. They tested for the wrong things. So these government agencies come in here, and I know you've reported on it in the past, but the CDC or the EPA grounded the plane that was going to test for the appropriate chemicals. And then they got in the air eventually, and they didn't test for the chemicals that were at issue. So we have these agencies coming in and saying either don't test or test for the wrong things, and allowing the bad guys like the railroad to do their own testing and then claim it's all within acceptable limits. And so here's how this plays out, Jordan, in every disaster, right? The bad guys come in, and I'm sorry, I'm saying that I know you're with me. CDC and the EPA in this case are the bad guys. They come in, and the railroad too. And they say, first of all, they don't test for the right things, but then the testing that comes out, they say it's all within acceptable limits. And there's not enough X, whatever X is, well, it's vinyl chloride, fuel, whatever. There's not enough X to make people sick. Therefore, anyone who is sick is psychosomatic or crazy, right? That's the natural conclusion. So instead of actually doing the appropriate testing, they'd rather call thousands of people just a little bit dramatic and loony.
And I want to show you because I believe we actually broke some of this 2 years ago.
You did.
But
we've been talking about it.
2 years ago, we got audio from a resident who went to the local Mercy doctor. Mercy is a chain of medical providers in Ohio and elsewhere. And he was asking for a vinyl chloride test. And he was told in several different ways, we're being told not to provide that. There's 3 clips we have. If you don't take away from this that something is not right in Kansas here, something doesn't smell right here. Let's play the first clip. This is a resident who went to try and get testing for vinyl chloride.
There's nothing to test for. There's a certain time frame they're telling us it has to be done.
But even if I'm paying for it out of pocket, even though there's a certain time frame, why can't I still get the test just at a good?
You know what? I'm going to have you talk to one of the nurses.
Okay.
If it's a daily exposure, there's no time limit.
Because
you were just exposed.
Well, that's the problem I'm having here. We're being exposed daily, so they don't want to say they know that it's out of your urine.
They're saying it's a time frame from exposure. That's what it
So
is.
what if I pay for my own test and I don't care about the time?
So, Christina, that goes to what you were saying. You hear whoever that was, somebody at Mercy, saying, we're being told by CDC not to do it because there's a time frame that you would catch the vinyl chloride. Say what you want about RFK. I'm not making this about RFK. A lot of people think he's cockamamie, as do I. And some of the stuff they're doing now is cockamamie. But that's not even true, what she was telling them, because people months later were getting tested and getting positive hits for elevated vinyl chloride.
Well, and what's the harm in testing, Jordan? What's the harm in testing? Just give the person a test. Your patient is coming to you and asking, please give me a test. Why is it that in these situations we look at them and say no? If you go to your doctor and you say, can you please test me for cholesterol? They're going to give you the test. Of course they are. Why not? So why are you refusing to test people in the immediate aftermath of a toxic event if it's not just that you don't want to know the results?
Right.
We had the director of toxicology at the VA in the Hawaii case said, we're not going to test people because we don't want to open Pandora's box.
Bingo.
That's the actual story here. They don't want to know. And if we're just quiet and if we just we'll just reassure people. Nothing to see or hear, folks. You're okay. It's all within acceptable limits. You're okay. It is absolutely gaslighting at the highest levels, and it's very distressing. It's
psychological warfare. If you take it all apart, that's what it is. Covert psychological warfare. Tell them nicely over and over that none of this is real. Downplay it. And they talk about the effects of stress, but don't liken that to what they've done.
Right. And by the way, I would tell you, it's the literal definition of gaslighting because vinyl chloride is a gas. Vinyl chloride is a very, very toxic gas. And by the way, that got the headline like in Flint. The headline was lead. Well, in Flint, there was a lot of other shit in that water. And in this case, it's not just vinyl chloride. When they detonated those cars, the chemical byproducts, I don't even know if we'll ever know how much byproducts, harmful byproducts were manufactured. And again, I could just tell you anecdotally, I don't suffer from headaches. The first time I went to East Palestine, within walking into a home, I had a pounding headache within a minute.
Same thing with my law partner, Mindy. We come to town, she gets sick. Yeah. It is very real, and it's still going on now. And they're remediating, and so they're saying it's within acceptable limits. Well, Jordan, why are we remediating something that's acceptable? If it's perfectly safe, why are we remediating?
Right.
Why do we still have unmarked cars going in and out? It's not safe even now, and you know that. That's why you're remediating. So stop looking at sick people and telling them they're not sick. And stop saying it's safe when you know it's not safe.
And I don't want to get too technical because none of us are chemists, but I will point out also, one of the problems here is the EPA, and it's not just a problem here, by the way, it's a problem in Central California. We've been covering a lithium battery fire, among other places. They're testing, and their average limits is for single chemical exposure to one chemical at a time. So they're saying, hey, here is our measurement for formaldehyde or vinyl chloride, or name your chemical, lead, arsenic. Well, this is a chemical mushroom cloud. This is a chemical petri dish. People were not exposed and are not currently being exposed to one chemical at a time. It's a cocktail of chemicals. So it does. You can in your testing, and I don't want to be a conspiracy person. I'm not saying don't trust the government ever, but a lot of times their testing is cherry picked. Let's put it that way. The EPA and other agencies, their testing says nothing to see here, and then an independent tester comes in. What do you know? Every time they're finding higher levels, which is exactly the thing that happened here. The EPA didn't even want to test for dioxins, which are some of the most toxic chemicals known to man. As Krista knows, they had to shut down a town, Times Beach, Missouri, because of a dioxins disaster. It's a ghost town now. It was evacuated. And I think that's what you're getting to, Christina. Why wouldn't they want to open Pandora's box? Because you might find that everyone's really sick, forcing them to basically evacuate this community.
And the remedy is too great, right? If we just tone it down, then we never have to deal with the actual reality and the magnitude of the problem. And we see this over and over and over again. So let's not test for the right thing, or let's not test right now. We'll test next week, but not this instant, right? That's what happens.
I want to play 2 more clips to show you same person that was trying to get that treatment. By the way, this is in 2023. This is not now. This is in 2023. He was trying to get the vinyl chloride testing. He's not the only one. There was other people telling me they were trying to get tested for vinyl chloride, benzene, among other things, and we're being told we can't do it. Let's play that second one, Colin.
Or which clip was that again? Did you say?
The second one from the East Palestine.
Okay, so we actually just were talking to the doctors and so they have to go by whatever Mercy's telling them. Unfortunately, we're not getting answers either.
Well, see, here's the thing, and this is me being honest. I called up at Mercy Health up in Boardman. They told me that it's the CDAC guideline that I cannot be tested for it through Mercy Health because of their guideline. Okay, so if it comes out of my pocket and you're my healthcare provider, you guys are my healthcare provider, why can't I pay out of pocket, even though that I understand there's a timeline for this, but I'm still being exposed because I'm 200 yards away from it? Yeah. Why can't I have that test done if I pay for it out of pocket then?
So they have not got the okay from higher up. See, we're just in office through them.
I know they were. You guys are at.
We're not getting all the answers either. All we are being told is that Mercy, the whole Mercy system, and you're right, it is everywhere. Mercy is everywhere. Why aren't we getting answers? I don't know. I can't answer that.
Here's what I was told by this lady. Here's where the CDC also gave you guys that guideline not to do that.
So all they said was that the CDC doesn't recommend it, and that.
And this would be a good time, by the way, to remind folks, this is the same CDC that had people on the ground there who themselves got sick and left and didn't tell the public. That was only discovered also through freedom of information. So CDC, the government, they were going, I believe, door to door doing some type of testing or consultation. Their people got sick, so they had to leave town, go back to the hotel, and then they went home. And they didn't make an announcement. They didn't, do what you think would be responsible if you're the government agency tasked with health. Hey, maybe we should temporarily relocate all of these people because we're getting sick, so we can't leave them there. They just, shh. But again, that clip shows you, and doctors, listen, I've covered a lot of these stories. A lot of the doctors, Some of them are legitimately just following orders. Other of them are getting money from the government and other entities and are basically just going with the government line. Other of them, frankly, are not equipped to deal with this kind of toxins. They don't have the expertise to deal with heavy metal poisoning or volatile organic compounds. They're just small little office doctors. I want to show you the last clip because he actually, Eric, in that clip, spoke with the doctor there, and the doctor was pointing out, this seems political to me. Let's play that.
I'll tell you one other story about this. See, I contacted LabCorp. Okay. See, we're doing things behind the scenes here, and I said to LabCorp, we contacted a regular representative. Then I talked to the head of the division for the, he was the head of Ohio LabCorp. And I said, these people want to be tested. They want to be tested for something here. What am I going to test them for? There's vinyl chloride, there's this. Well, we don't have a test for this. We don't have a test for that. We don't have a test for that. And I said, well, what do you have a test for? Well, he said you can test for benzene. I don't know what that's going to get you, but you can. And you can test for vinyl chloride. They do have that. Or ethylene chloride. Or you want for vinyl chloride, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can do that. So I said, well, can we do that? How do we do this and this and that? Oh, I don't know. I'll have the president of the chemicals division call you. Well, the president of the chemicals division can never call me. And then there was something about, somebody said supposedly that the politics are mixing in there, that they don't want to be testing for these kind of things because they're involved in the lawsuit.
This is what I was telling her. I got the guy on the EPA sitting there saying that they opened up too much at a time, cleaning up these railroad tracks, and now they want to come in and do it on the north side in smaller increments because they're releasing too much chemicals in the air. Yeah. Then I also have him on there saying when they came into our home, they're testing at 0.1 VOCs. Okay, that's not sufficient when they're in the billions. You know what I mean? So they're saying that it's safe.
Do you have an appointment, Dr.
Yes.
Okay. They're ready to check in.
Oh, okay. So they're saying that the test at 0.1 VOCs is not sufficient. I got the guy from the federal EPA is saying this to me. We had a unity counseling.
Right, I understand.
They're saying that it's unsafe, but yet it's I'm bouncing around and I'm getting sick.
That's a doctor. And by the way, we wouldn't know any of this stuff unless smartly Eric recorded it. Because the doctors aren't going public. This seems political. They're not letting me test. And the doctor pointed out, as you pointed out, Christina, we could test for vinyl chloride. I mean, this seems like a coordinated campaign to sacrifice these people. Am I being dramatic? It seems that way to me. Krista?
This is historically what happens. I mean, that's why I went back and I looked through history to get an idea of what was going to go on. When I reached out to Marilyn Leisner, I had no idea what she was going to tell me. I didn't know if she was going to say, oh, I know it looks bad, but it's nothing like this. And instead, I heard the most heartbreaking stories about people who were lied to about their exposure for 10 years. Now, things did get rolling for them pretty quickly once the truth came out, but they were sick for 10 years with no knowledge of why. A reporter saw their name on a list of dioxin-contaminated cities and came to their village hall. When's that going to happen for us? When are they going to start telling the truth as loud and long as what they downplayed everything? When are they going to validate what everybody is experiencing and the risks to their future health? Because a lot of people don't realize that if they're not sick now, they won't be sick in the future. And my understanding is that's completely false. The small amount of people are sick now. In the future, it points to massive amounts of people being seriously ill. I don't want to see that for anybody. Nobody here deserves it. Nobody other in another community deserves it. And there will be another. There's been Conyers and Moss Landing and other disasters since. We don't deserve this, and it's going to happen to the next community. And, we never thought anything like this would have happened.
Ashley, I want to bring you in too, because you focus a lot on labor and working people. I mean, let's remind people these people still have to work. They still have to kind of raise kids, pay bills. Norfolk Southern is not paying for them to permanently relocate for people who want to relocate. So they're stuck in these homes for the most part, because it's, contrary to sometimes you get people in the comments saying, well, why don't you move? You want to pay for them to move? Your thoughts, Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, on your last point, who can actually just pick up and move, right? If something happens, if you, like, I live in New York City, I have a building going up next to me that is constantly, like, the noise pollution is insane, and I've been getting sick a lot, and I'm not sure if it's, because of new strains of COVID, or if it's the building going up next to me, or a combination of both. I couldn't just pick up and leave. I can't do that. I couldn't move within the city, let alone outside of the city. Most people are not able to just change their lives. And again, to Jordan's point, like, people are not able to work. So if you're not able to work, you're not bringing in any kind of income to support that move that people think that you should be making. You can't do that. So what do people do? You're just stuck. You are just stuck. And, listening to both of you, Christina and Krista, like, the disdain that our own government has for working people is disgusting. And just, I have been following this story, for the last couple of years, since everything started, and everything just gets worse and worse. Like we see in all of these other sacrifice zones, people are just subject to this forever. And, as Jordan, you said, when you went to visit, and Christina, as you also said, you both got sick just from being there for however long, a few days, a few hours, maybe. Everybody, like Krista, is just there. There's nowhere to go. You can't leave. And this is where people's homes are. This is where people's families are, their communities. This is where their kids go to school. You're stuck. You can't do anything. And I don't know.
And where do you go? And what do you do with your poisoned house and your poisoned environment? Because we've had people that sold homes and people who moved in, and they're terribly sick. They've had to send their family to other cities where they find out that their family's doing better. And they're still stuck with this huge mortgage that they thought was going to be the beginning of their dream life. It's really a no-win situation. And then how do you pick where you're going to go? Different people have different opinions on how far away you need to be. But those are opinions. We aren't scientists, but also we never planned on leaving. Most everybody here, these were our forever homes. We weren't going to upsize, downsize. We weren't going to relocate. But now that we need to, where do we want to go? And how do we find out what area of that we want to be in? There's so much logistics. And in Times Beach, they weren't allowed to take any of their possessions, not their toothbrush, not their underwear, not their Christmas tree, not their baby books. How do we decide how much of our stuff to take, and how do we replace it when we get there? Because this isn't a planned move. This isn't like you decided to downsize or upsize or relocate. My mom described it as feeling like you're being tossed out of a trash bag. She knows we need to relocate, but, it's not good circumstances. And then we're 10 hours away from where she thinks would be a good place for her to relocate, since she has to. She didn't plan to.
Krista, can I ask you, and I don't want to make this, it's not to me about Democrats versus Republicans, but with this recent news, I sadly, not surprisingly, am seeing Republicans weaponizing it. See, it's Biden. Well, as far as I could tell, has the situation gotten dramatically better under President Trump? And by the way, the vice president is J.D. Vance, who was your senator when this happened. The same J.D. Vance, I covered it. He was told by the head of the National Transportation Safety Board, okay, the NTSB, who investigated this, Norfolk Southern didn't have to blow up the chemicals. He was told by the NTSB chair they blew off advice from the experts not to blow up the cars. He was told by the head of the NTSB that Norfolk Southern withheld information from the governor of Ohio and the East Palestine fire chief that the experts, the owner of the chemicals that they blew up, were saying you don't need to blow up these cars. He said, J.D. Vance said in that hearing, well, it sure sounds to me like this town might have been poisoned to speed up the reopening of freight, the railroad. He said all that when he was a senator. I reached out to his office because it sounds to me, if you're basically saying this town might have been poisoned, I just asked his office several times, is the senator going to call for a criminal investigation into Norfolk Southern? Crickets. He came to East Palestine on the 2-year anniversary to say, I'm here with you. I wasn't there, but from what I hear from residents, he wouldn't talk to the residents. I'm just asking because there's plenty of blame with the Biden administration, but for the conservatives, are you getting more relief from the Trump administration?
We haven't gotten any relief, but this is historically what happens. I mean, I don't think it's a party by party, and I think it's easy to make it, blame the last administration. And I'm sure there are some issues there, but to me, this is about working with our elected representatives, the ones that are in place at the time, bipartisanly. That's the only part of politics I will deal with all of this. There is no benefit. If this was a house fire, the first responders aren't going to ask, are you a Republican, a Democrat, a liberal? What are you, before they come in and save you? So to me, taking that stance is just not really productive.
Absolutely. And Christina, before we wrap, tell people, because some people might not know, obviously they know about the overall lawsuit where there was Norfolk Southern settled for about $600 million. But this is a separate lawsuit that you and other lawyers are representing about 800 residents. Tell people where this stands, and is there any hope for not just financial relief, but for more? Because I think the original settlement, not your lawsuit, the other settlement, was woefully, besides the money, I believe it was woefully inadequate.
Oh, it was. And that's why we're here. There are more than 700 people who said we want accountability. We actually want to get to the truth. We want change. We're taking a stand here for everybody. These are brave families, I think, who are taking a stand for us, for you and for me, for our kids, because we can't allow this to continue to happen. It's happened here. It's happened elsewhere. We've said it's a pattern, but it has to stop. And these families are standing up and saying it stops with us, because you can't buy us out for chump change, because it has to be enough to make a difference, because these families are still suffering in the houses that made them sick, right? And they're taking a stand, though, not just for themselves, but for all of us who live on train lines, for all of us who live in this country where there are big institutions that are cutting costs and cutting corners and hurting people. So I'm really proud of them. And I'm proud of what they're doing. We filed the case and we're waiting now to proceed through discovery, and we're going to get to the truth. We're going to get to the truth. And I think what's most relevant to this discussion is we brought claims against the CDC and the EPA. And we have fought, those are called administrative claims, SF-95s. But it's the first claims that I know of that have accused the CDC and the EPA of failing to treat people in the immediate aftermath of a disaster like this. And it's that's important. The CDC and the EPA need to be accountable, because there's no institution that is too big for liability for poisoning people. So we're suing the CDC, we're suing the EPA, we're suing Norfolk Southern, and what's great about the lawsuit in state court is that we will get to a jury trial. I think the hope is in the people. The people are entrusted with enforcing the safety rules in our country. I still believe in a system that is justice by our peers. And if we can just get to our peers on these issues, if we can just get to the people, I believe that the people will see the light and will deliver justice for these families.
Thank you guys for taking time. I know it's hard. You might not know this, but I mean, pretty much every East Palestine resident I speak with, it's hard to schedule an interview with them, not through any fault of their own, but they don't feel well, understandably. So it's not easy for residents to even do an hour because they have issues, physical and mental. So thank you, Krista, for taking the time, Christina, and we'll stay in touch. We're not getting off this story.
I just hope it doesn't happen to another community while we wait.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Take care. And you know what? I'm going to get on my high horse here, Ashley. I get on my high horse. Take off my glasses so you can meet my sleep-deprived bags. I have a 1-month-old and a 2.5-year-old. I pretty much am sleeping 3 hours a night right now. First off, credit to News Nation. News Nation is the outlet that broke 2 of these stories. Second story we broke 2 years ago. But anyway, at least they're reporting it and staying on it. News Nation reporter Rich McHugh deserves a lot of credit because he has stayed on it. He's been to East Palestine a lot, so I like to give credit where credit is due. Other than him, shame on all of the media, okay? I understand that we're living under a fucking orange clown fascist. I understand he needs to be covered, and we have been covering it extensively, Trump and what he's doing. But all of those outlets, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Associated Press, the Daily Beast, all of them. We could go down the list, not to mention the local outlets in Ohio, in Pennsylvania. They have a shit ton more resources than Status Coup has, than News Nation has. And somehow outlets with a couple quarters to scratch together can stay on these stories, can break stories. The Government Accountability Project is the one doing the Freedom of Information request. They're a small nonprofit, I believe. When there's a will, there's a way. How is it that the national media just leaves communities to just die? How is it that the national and local media, by the way, I've broken several stories. So did Lewis, who is no longer with us. He moved to Germany. But Lewis went to East Palestine for us the first 5 or 6 times. He broke stories there. I broke stories in East Palestine. I sent it to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I sent it to the Cleveland Plain Dealer, the Columbus Dispatch. You know, local outlets, you think they want to report about a mass poisoning and criminal cover-up of citizens in their state and Pennsylvania too? No fucking response from these outlets, much less covering it. I spoke with somebody at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. He's one of the workers there that, because they've laid off a bunch of workers or there's been a contract dispute. So there's now a kind of like a separate entity that's like former Pittsburgh Post-Gazette workers that form their own outlet as a union. I spoke with him. He told me that he was pushing the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette to send him there when he was still working there. Wouldn't send him there. It's like an hour from Pittsburgh. Shame on the media, because silence is complicity. You are silent as these people are slowly dying. That's what's going on here. And to be clear, Ashley, and you might be wondering, Jordan, why are you so angry all the time? And I think you're going to get there. I told you, be with us for a little bit. You'll be as pissed off as I am. We're not covering this because it's not, we're staying on this. Why I have stayed on Flint for 10 years, almost 10 years. Wrote the book that was released last year, We the Poisoned, which kudos, just won 2 book awards, just saying. Why we've stayed on it? Because it ain't just about Flint. It's not just about East Palestine. You think that this is just confined to these small little areas? Okay? Flint, East Palestine, East Chicago, Indiana, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is suddenly in the news because RFK Jr. and the CDC or the EPA have been, basically deserted Milwaukee, who's having a lead crisis. I was in Milwaukee 2 years ago covering the lead crisis. The lead crisis in Milwaukee has been going on for 20 years. Kalamazoo, Michigan. We covered that extensively. A paper mill releasing toxic gas into a poor black community. Central California. Tina was just there for us with John Farina. I've covered it extensively. A lithium battery fire. It's very similar to East Palestine and Western Pennsylvania. People are sick as far as 50 to 100 miles. Crickets in the national and local media. I'm not saying this because I'm so great or Ashley's so great, although we are. I'm saying it. And by the way, it is not profitable. It is not profitable to stay on these stories. We are losing money to stay on these stories because YouTube, what are we live to like 250 people right now on YouTube? A couple hundred on Twitter. If I did a live stream talking about the Glenn Greenwald sex tape, which, by the way, I don't give a shit about, Glenn, live, enjoy yourself. Who cares? If I did a live stream with Joe Rogan in the headline, bashing Rogan, I mean, we'd have 1,000 to 2,000 live, maybe more. Why? Because that's what these digital platforms elevate. That's what the algorithms elevate. Not communities being poisoned and the government covering it up, but bullshit and sensationalism and infotainment and nonsense. That's why I'm asking you to sign up as a member, so we could stay on these stories. To be clear, the only reason I was able to break several stories about Flint, Michigan, and The Guardian, The Intercept, Vice, Detroit Metro Times, the only reason I was able to publish a book on it that I'm very fortunate and grateful just won 2 awards. The only reason we were able to do a documentary on Flint, which, fingers crossed, might be turned into a movie. I've talked to Adam McKay, who did Don't Look Up. His company I've talked to about that. Nothing to announce. But the only reason is because Status Coup viewers paid for me to go there. With TYT, I think I went there 10 times. With Status Coup, I've been there 11 times. I'm not independently wealthy to pay to go to Flint. Status Coup viewers paid for us to go to East Palestine 8 times. Status Coup viewers just paid for Ashley to go on the ground. She's been covering the fucking Gestapo Trump ICE. Sorry, Ashley, I could go on forever. I want you to talk too, but this just enrages me because you literally, it is so clear that these people were poisoned. Common sense. You don't have to be a chemist. You think you're going to blow up 5 trains of toxic, cancerous gas and it just magically disappears in the air and nobody gets sick? What are you, a fucking idiot? Of course people are going to get sick. Please, I will not beg any corporations. I will not beg Norfolk Southern. I will not beg Goldman Sachs, United Healthcare, but I am not beyond begging you, Jane and Joe Sixpack. I am not beyond begging the people. Just fund us. All I'm asking, $5, $10 a month. You might think, what is $5, $10 a month? Listen, right now, give or take, we have about almost 3,000 paying members. Almost 3,000 paying members. If we could get that number up to 5,000 paying members, it's very likely I could hire a producer. As Ashley could tell you, we need one to reach more eyeballs. But when you could stack, it's kind of like, I'm not comparing us to the Bernie movement, but why was Bernie able to compete in campaigns up against, I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars in super PAC money and all this money? Because he stacked $27 at a time. He didn't have anyone donating 10 million from a super PAC. If you could stack $5 memberships, $10 memberships, on and on and on, to the point where you have 5,000, 10,000 small dollar paying members, that's stable money coming in where we don't have to worry about how many views are we. I mean, obviously we want to get more eyeballs. We want to get as many views as we could get. But so often in this profession, people are chasing clicks. We don't want to chase clicks. We want to chase justice. Damn, that was good. Colin, clip that and let's write that down to use again. We don't want to chase clicks. We're chasing justice here. So please, part of the reason we started this live stream on Sunday, I love you folks, but I don't really want to work Sunday and neither does Ashley. Okay. But, you know, I got 2 kids. Ashley's got a life. We're doing it to stand out, to be live because there's, you know, you have less content to watch. And a lot of people have said to me, I'd love to watch something on Sunday. But we're also doing it to grow. If we don't grow, we're not going to be going live on Sunday. So please sign up. We would love to go back to East Palestine. We want to stay on the lithium battery fire in Central California. We want to stay on Kalamazoo. We're definitely staying on Flint because that is the corrupt gift that keeps giving, unfortunately. I wrote a book and I could write another book already. Some of the shit I've learned within the last month. Ashley, sorry for my long monologue. Your thoughts?
No. Yeah, I would say yes. Like, please join as a member. We have, you know, beyond the stories that you just mentioned, Jordan, we have other things in the work that we would like to cover. Other, you know, sacrifice zones around the country. There are plenty of them. I suspect there are going to be more and more of them. We want to be able to go and cover them. There's a difference between writing about something you've learned secondhand, or doing remote interviews and being able to actually be on the ground and see what is happening with your own eyes. You might notice things that other people don't notice. You might learn things just from being in person, just from having some kind of like actual relationship with someone, beyond being able to just talk over the computer. So it's really, really, really nice to be able to do those things. And again, there are other things that we want to be covering, other stories in the works for sacrifice zones. And I just covered in the newsletter this morning, there was another story about how firefighters that were responders at the LA wildfires are now also being or have been subject to, extraordinary amounts of lead, mercury, VOCs, fine particulate matter, all kinds of pollutants. That whole area has been subject to that as well. And we're, I think, just starting to figure out or learn through researchers how bad that actually
Absolutely.
is. So it's not just like these like corporate sacrifice zones. It is the, climate disasters that are obviously also corporate sacrifice zones, but it is, things that happen in the wake of these disasters as well. We all have all kinds of synthetic materials in our homes. When those go up in flames, you are subject to all kinds of again, pollutants, compounds that you don't want to be breathing in. So we want to be able to cover as many of those stories as possible. I think it's a particular interest to any of us who live in this country. Just because it hasn't happened in your region yet doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. And, beyond that, just living in this country, you are subject to pollutants and toxins all the time. So I think these are the kind of stories we want to be able to cover. We want to go on the ground. And beyond that, I going to New Jersey, as someone I interviewed there called it the ICE capital of the US now, with their probably now 3 detention centers in that area. We want to be able to go and cover those things. If we hadn't been on the ground, I don't think we would have gotten as much information about that as we did. So again, just yes-anding everything. Please become a member so that we can do more of this, because the on-the-ground reporting is extremely, extremely important. And I will just say it is my favorite part of the job, being able to go out and actually talk to people face-to-face and build rapport and, find the stories that you wouldn't find in other ways.
Absolutely. I want to also point out with the live stream that we're going to be doing on Sundays, we also, if you came to this late, we also launched this morning. Ashley did the inaugural, the Status Sunday newsletter. So this you could get for free. You got to sign up to our Substack. We're if you notice, we've started doing more on Substack. We're doing that intentionally because we don't want to, you don't want to put all your apples in one basket. Obviously, YouTube is big. Our biggest platform is YouTube, but we want to reach people as many places as possible. So I've started doing original reporting and commentary on Substack. I did about 3 pieces, I believe, this week. Ashley did the newsletter today. So every Sunday, we're going to be releasing a newsletter. Colin, if we could just scroll a little bit. So this is definitely will be shorter. Ashley, God bless her. It was a little longer today, but it's basically a top 10 of the stories we think are falling through the cracks. So as you see here, the first one she did was about the EPA basically declaring the Flint water crisis over, which, as you know, it's not over. It's bullshit. So we went through that story with information you might not know, covered some other stories about the climate inferno, local and state government corruption, covered a story about a woman suing big oil over her mother's death in a deadly heat wave. A very important story Ashley covered about the AI apocalypse and the New York Times basically being complicit in the artificial intelligence apocalypse. So these are 10 stories. And, don't worry, we want to make it digestible where you could actually get through it on Sunday. So we'll probably cut it down a little bit. But these are 10 stories that I don't think you're going to see elsewhere. And we're also, when time allows, going to do our own, add our own reporting into the newsletter. At the bottom of the newsletter, we kind of spotlight some of our on-the-ground reporting from the week, and give you extra context with that. For this newsletter, we're going to see how it works, but if it gets popular, we might add more just for paying members. So this one is free. And to be clear, obviously we're asking you to pay to sign up to support Status Coup as a paid member, but there's no excuse. You can sign up for our Substack for free. Capital FREE. So all you got to do is go to statuscoup.substack.com and you'll get a little pop-up, I think, to enter your email. There is a paid option if you want. Obviously, we appreciate that, but you could sign up for free. And why that's important, we want as many people to sign up as possible, because the way it's been described to me by Substack, how they have kind of have like a visual leaderboard of publications, and they have a tab that shows rising publications. So basically, if you have a Substack, they have a list of the Substacks that are rising in their rankings. And part of how they calculate rankings risers is how many subscribers you have, including free subscribers. So the more we rise, the more the wider audience of Substack sees our Substack. So in English, you signing up for free actually helps us. So it doesn't cost you anything to sign up to Substack for free. And with Substack, if you don't know how it works, when we publish something on Substack, you get that to your email inbox. So you don't even really have to go to Substack to find us. It'll come to your email when we publish the status Substack email. The status, it's a marvel I'm even able to talk because I am so sleep deprived. It
is. Jordan has been telling us just how sleep deprived he is. So don't underestimate how much work having a newborn and a toddler is. It is so much. So I think Jordan has earned his.
And by the way, to you fuckers saying, Jordan, when are you coming back? Because I've been on paternity leave. Ashley could tell you, Colin could tell you, I haven't actually been on leave. You might have seen my face a little less. I've been doing quite a lot behind the scenes. So I actually would like to take a little week off just to spend with my newborn son, but I've been doing quite a lot behind the scenes. So I haven't actually been off, just to say. Colin, did I miss something?
I was just responding to this comment. If you're a member on the website, is Substack included? They're two separate things. The Substack, like Jordan mentioned, is free. So it's just a separate thing you can sign up for to get the stories and stuff. The paid side of Substack is only available if you're signed up on there. But that's, as of right now, everything that's paid on Substack is available to all members on whatever your respective platform is. When we start doing exclusive stuff on Substack, we'll let you guys know and go from there.
And to be clear, this is something we're working on behind the scenes. If you haven't noticed, at Status Coup, we actually have membership through 4 different platforms. We have our website, which is our preferred. If you're going to sign up, we prefer you to do it on our website. That's statuscoup.com/join. We also have Patreon membership, which is when we launched, we started as a Patreon. We also have YouTube membership, which a lot of people sign up on YouTube. And we also have Substack. And understandably, sometimes people get confused, like, what do I get? Because there's 4 different things. We are working behind the scenes right now to simplify it. I would personally love everybody who's not on the website to cancel where you are and come over to the website. But that's obviously easier said than done. And it's, people for whatever, if you signed up on YouTube and you want to stay on YouTube, that's fine. If you can, if it's not too much work, if you're not signed up on our website, to cancel your Patreon, your YouTube, or Substack and move over, I'm talking about paid members, to our website, please do that. And if you need any guidance, email us at info@statuscoup.com, info@statuscoup.com if you need any guidance on that. But for anyone who sometimes get confused, well, I'm a member here, what do I get that I can't get elsewhere? Right now, we're working behind the scenes to simplify it and so that you will know. So that's coming. But to be clear, Substack, you could do this for free. It has nothing to do with membership. Sign up to our Substack for free, because unlike a lot of other places, we're not sending an email every day begging for money. We're sending emails with original reporting, original content, and now this badass newsletter, Status Sundays. So I better sign off today, and I better see a lot of new free Substack subscribers because it's free. Remember they said nothing, Jordan, nothing in life is free. Well, this is. Okay. So that's, we got the Status Sunday show, the Status Coup Sunday newsletter. We're working on a couple other things. Also, as part of, we're trying to push membership, just to drop the curtain, right now, Ashley and I are talking about possibly sending her to Memphis, where Elon Musk, you want to talk about poisoning a community, Elon Musk's new supercomputer AI mammoth factory is literally poisoning South Memphis. More Perfect Union just did a good video on that. We were talking about going there anyway, but for Elon Musk to power Grok and whatever other AI he's doing, they are releasing a shit ton of gas into this community. We'd like to send Ashley there. There's another Elon Musk story. No, this is George Orwell warned about this in 1984. Now we have billionaires and tech overlords literally seizing American cities. So Ashley is looking into this, where Elon Musk has now taken over a city in Texas. What are they calling it? Starbase?
Starbase,
yes, so
yeah.
This is real. So we're talking about basically doing like a Elon trip, but so you know why we're asking, an average on the ground trip, if we're sending Ashley or myself anywhere with John for 4 or 5 days, it's $2,000 to $3,000 easy, cheap. You know, that's 2 flights, a rent-a-car, hotel rooms for two separate hotel rooms, food. Even if you're staying at a reasonable, you know, like a Holiday Inn or somewhere not the Ritz, you're talking between the flights, rent a car, hotel, and food. So part of why there's so few on the ground reporting, other than most outlets are lazy, is it is expensive. So I think we've gone as far as we humanly can, and I'm proud because our audience has gotten us there, but we need to grow if we're going to be able to fund this. If you're not going to sign up, then we'll do the best we can and do stuff more local. But to do these bigger trips that cost money, it's either I take money from United Healthcare, Goldman Sachs, all the corporate fuckers purchasing the Democrats or Republicans, or we stay pure and we stay independent and we do it the right way. So, by the way, Ashley, she wouldn't tell you this. She's a fucking trooper. I'm not the only one playing hurt. She's been sick. She did that newsletter sick. She did this live stream sick. She has gotten off air a few times to cough. So sign up as a member just for fucking pity, man. Come on. We'll take pity memberships too.
That works for me. I have been coughing. That's why I was off camera for a few minutes, because I didn't want to subject everyone to watching me cough for a minute.
And do tell the audience so rumors don't spread. I have told you to take some days off.
Yes, Jordan has. I have refused because we have so much work to do. We have so much work to do, and I don't want to take any time off. And if you guys sign up as members, we can just keep doing more work, because
hire other people to do it, so you could take a day.
Yeah, well, and if we have more people, we can do more things. I can do more writing. I love writing, so I would love some more time to really do that, to dig into, more reporting. We want to be able to keep doing that and do more investigative reporting of our own. And if people sign up more, we can do that. We'll have more people so that we can actually really dig into some stories, take more trips, do all of that.
I like this.
So even if it's a pity sign up, please.
Memberships are air purifiers. I like that. And by the way, I will add. Oh God, this is what happens when you don't sleep. You have a great thought and then you lose it. I can't add what I was going to add. What was I going to? I don't know. Let's also not forget, even though I've asked him 20 times, get a fucking working camera, and he doesn't have a working camera for whatever reason. Let's give it up. Colin Tooley, behind the scenes. I've been working him like child labor. Not quite, but I mean, this man is working around the clock. Colin, come on, take a victory lap. Colin is doing the job of 10 people. And I also give him shit sometimes. I say, change that caption, change that thumbnail, change that headline. When I say sometimes, a lot. So I'm not the easiest. I mean, I don't think I'm a dictator or anything. I don't think I'm such an asshole, but I am a bit of an anal retentive perfectionist. So Colin is working around the clock, and we're also trying to grow because we need to get extra editors. So Colin isn't doing everything. We need to get a producer. So Colin isn't doing everything. He can't do it all. You know, yeah. Well, maybe AI could do it for you, but I don't want to replace you. So Colin deserves a lot of credit, and we don't want Colin to be working every Sunday too. So part of the plan with the Sunday live stream is for John Farina to also produce some of these. So Colin isn't working every Sunday. So that's my sales pitch. Please.
Colin needs a break, guys.
Yes. Oh.
Colin needs a break. He's always working so hard.
He's working so hard that look at his face. He's charcoal now. he's deteriorating before our eyes. I remembered what I was going to say. I did lose my train of thought. I remembered. If you can't sign up as a member, no shame in that. For some people, $5. They don't even have that. There is something you can do. I do believe word of mouth still matters. In all this fucking social media and all these new tech, the spoken word is still a thing. I know people don't like talking to each other in America. I know you'd rather talk to your phone, but you could spread the coup any time of the day. You could spread it to your neoliberal auntie. You could spread it to your Republican uncle. You could spread it if you go to a coffee shop and have you're brave enough to talk to someone. You could spread it far and wide. It's contagious in a good way. So spread the coup, because I believe water is important to Democrats and Republicans. I believe clean air, well, maybe not all, but I believe clean air is important to everyone. I believe people care about corruption across political lines, left, right, libertarian, no labels. I believe, and some people say this is corny, but I truly do believe this based on my experience on the ground. I believe most people in this country, left, right, doesn't matter, are not lacking compassion. I believe most people have no fucking idea what the hell is going on all around. I think most people have no clue. And I use my parents as always the case study. God bless them. I don't agree with them politically. They're a bit MAGA. But when they see my reporting on Flint, on other things, their general response, why isn't this all over the place? Why am I first hearing about this now? Why is CNN not covering this? Even they like Fox News, and they're saying, why isn't Fox not covering this? That's their response as to right-wing boomers. Most people are not okay with communities being poisoned. Most people are not okay with people living off $150 and only being able to eat rice. So, there's a lot of channels out there right now exploding. I don't want to name names. Midas Touch. Because they're the anti-Trump headquarters. And that's great. Bravo to them. They're making a lot of money, and they cover Trump till they're blue in the face. And there's plenty to cover with Trump. But I don't know any other outlets. Let me rephrase. There's some outlets that do good work. I would put More Perfect Union in there. I'd put Democracy Now! I put The Real News. Does some good work. Probably Drop Site News. Zeteo, I think, does important work. That's Mehdi Hassan. The Intercept, I do think, does good work. I know Labor Notes is not exactly like journalism per se, but they have a journalism component. I'm probably there was an outlet once upon a time called the Young Turks, but who the fuck knows what they're doing these days? I could go on. There are outlets that do good work, but I will say this loudly and proudly. Breakthrough News, thank you. I forgot that. I will say this loudly and proudly. There is no outlet in America that is consistently on the ground as much as us. And I could tell you because before Ashley came, was the one most of the time there. John Farina has covered over 100. At this point, who the hell knows? It might be closer to 150. Pro-Palestine protests, to the point where I've had to be like, John, go cover other things. Not because I don't think that is important, but because like we have to cover other things as well. Nobody has done that. Nobody, because it costs money. And also, just to talk reality, there are diminishing returns financially. When you're covering something over and over and it's kind of repetitive, viewership goes down. People, the audience doesn't, it kind of, people don't want to watch it as much as they did 2 years ago. But we have stayed on it because it's important and it's still happening. Same thing with Flint. Is any other outlet covering the ongoing Flint water crisis, or even telling you it still is a crisis, or East Palestine? And when I say covering it, I mean going there. You know how many holidays I've spent on the ground? I'm surprised my wife is still married to me. She's also texting me right now because I told her I'd end at 3 o'clock. I don't blame her. So all I'm asking, folks, if you can't support us financially, you can spread the word. You could like every video. You could share every video. You definitely could sign up to our Substack for free. For free. You could go to our store. I'm just going through the list. Do you know we have a merchandise store? Get your Status Coup swag. Obviously, you have to pay for that, so not everyone could do it. But for those that can, we got the United Corporations of America shirt. We got the Fossil Fuckers shirt. We got the Capitalism, C-O-P, Capitalism. We got the Poison States of America. Colin's working on some other designs. I could go on. All right. I did falsely advertise today because unfortunately we're not going to have time to take calls because I do want to stay married and I have to go take care of my newborn son. And Ashley is also sick. We will take calls next week. You have my word. We started a little late, and obviously I wanted to give the East Palestine folks enough time. So we do want viewer calls to be part of this, but I just don't have time to take it right now. So let's read some super chats, comments, and shout out memberships. And by the way, I've been holding it a pee for a good hour. So sign up just for my urinary tract.
Same.
Yes. Sign up for I'm drinking coffee, water, and I've had to pee for well over an hour. Okay. Become a member. J. Kel Boat signed up as a YouTube member. Thank you, J. Kel. Alex Ramirez, $5 super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Emily gifted 10 Status Coup memberships. Thank you so much, Emily. Really, really appreciate your generosity. She also donated $2 Canadian. Emily, I don't know if you know, but I have Canadian heritage. And my wife has been bugging me to try and get citizenship, just in case. I don't know if I can because my Canadian heritage comes from my grandpa who's dead. He was born there. So I don't know if I could get Canadian citizenship. And Canada is rightly pissed off at America, so I don't know if they're like welcoming us. But she wants me to try to get Canadian through my dead grandpa. I'm like, I don't know if that would work, but
if you can, it might not be.
I do love. Let me tell you something. I love a good old fashioned, drink. I had a maple old fashioned in Vancouver once. I could die and go to heaven. I love maple anything. I just got maple sugar, which it's organic, it says, but to add it to my mushroom coffee, which is not real coffee, it's delicious. It's delicious. Anonymous, $2. You are the only news that is showing protests. You're damn right. And let's not forget, John Farina, he deserves several awards because he's out covering a lot of the protests for us. Tyler, a member for 22 months. Thank you, as always, for the work you do. Thank you. Kimmy, $4.99. We are so glad you brought Ashley on. Thank you for all you do at Status Coup. I'm very glad Ashley is here, too. And can you imagine, not only does Ashley have to do the work, she's got to listen to me for 2 hours on a live stream, just talking and bloviating. No, we're very lucky. And by the way, I was very thorough. I interviewed almost 15 people. And Ashley was terrific and has been terrific because, to tell you the truth, I mean, it's not one job. You're doing many things at once.
Yeah. It's a lot, but I'm happy to be here and happy to be doing the work and wouldn't want to be anywhere
There you
else. So
Emily, another $5 Canadian. I'm Canadian. Have you guys started seeing empty shelves in grocery stores yet? It's definitely time to grow some of your own food if you can. I've seen a lot of empty egg shelves. I can tell you that. I went to the supermarket the other day and the egg shelves were damn near empty. So I don't know if people are just hoarding them while prices are kind of a little lower. I don't know.
yeah, I haven't been able to find any anywhere. I've been going to the farmers market here close to me, and that is the only place that I can actually find eggs. Like if you go to, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, I haven't seen any.
Oh, but do you
anywhere.
remember Trump's FDA head just said, don't worry about it. Just grow the chickens in your backyard.
Yeah, it's fine. Everybody wants to do that. My parents did have backyard chickens and ducks for a while. I would not really recommend it. You need to have a lot of space. It's a lot of work. I mean, if you want to do that, that's wonderful and great. They will be pets and you will love them and they will also give eggs. So that's cool. But it's
Colin,
it's a
great
lot.
idea. Let's start just editing as a montage the insane sociopathic things these Trump people say. I want what's her face, Joni Ernst saying, "Hey, we're all gonna die." I want the FDA head saying, "Hey, don't worry about egg prices. Just grow the chickens in your backyard." I'm sure we could find some other things. It's crazy. Steven became a Status Coup YouTube member. Thank you, Steven. D Cypher became a Status Coup YouTube member. Thank you. We really appreciate it. Donald, Status Coup member for 17 months. I continue to support on the ground journalism. That's what we need, and we really appreciate your support. And we don't want to forget our OG members, because obviously we're trying to sign up new members, but we've had people with us from the start, and you have sustained us as well. Brenda, a $5 super chat. This is why there needs to be more concern about the new Panasonic plant outside Kansas City, especially on the grounds of the old Sunflower ammunition plant. Brenda, the reality is it's really just hard to keep up, because the blessing with what we do, since we are one of the few that cover these kinds of things, you get a lot of people reaching out to us to tell us about other plants that we need to look into. And Jordan, did you hear about this? It's like, I'm glad to know about it, but I've only got 10 fingers, 10 toes, and I'm only one person. Ashley is only. So we can't cover everything. That's why we're trying to grow, so we could expand.
Well, to add to that, we actually have spoken to someone who has been working at this plant. So we'll see what happens with there. I'm not making any promises. It's a kind of tricky situation, but we have been. So we are trying to.
I stand corrected. Now I remember that is the plant with loose ties to Elon Musk Tesla. So yes, we have looked into that. We're just waiting on a few things. Obviously, to cover these things, you need workers to talk to you, and a lot of times they don't want to, understandably, to protect their jobs. S. Jera, 99-cent super sticker, smiling face with heart eyes. Thank you. Emily, another $2 Canadian UTI fund money. Thank you. By the way, Emily, I don't want to excite you. One of my ideas, if we could grow, I want to go to Canada. I want to go to Canada, because I think, other than Michael Moore in his great documentary Sicko, hey, if all the Democrats and Republicans say our healthcare is the best and we have all the choice, why don't we go to Canada and ask them? Why don't we ask the Canadians about their healthcare? Why don't we show their system? Why don't we put a face to this socialist medicine and show you how terrible it is? I.e., most of them actually like it. So I have wanted for a while to go to Canada, but here's the problem. To go to Canada right now, it would be wildly expensive, because our plan with LiveView, which is our broadcasting unit, is for domestic use. So if you then get an international plan, that's a whole lot more money. So right now we can't really go live in Canada. It's not. Once I did accidentally, and I think it was like $1,000 bill for overage for over our data, because we don't have an international data plan. So we'd have to go and basically record everything, which we could do. But obviously, if we're there, we want to be able to go live. But that's on my list to possibly go up north. to our friends in Canada. Ira became a Status Coup member. Thank you, Ira. Alex, $10. By the way, I found your channel through Secular Talk with Kyle Kalinske. He shouted you out during the January 6th riots, I believe. Consider going on Crystal, Kyle, and Friends. Thank you to Kyle. I have been on Crystal, Kyle, Friends before. They were nice enough to have me on, I believe, for my book. Always happy to go back on. We thank them. Kyle, feel free to shout us out since, you have a couple more followers than us there. Also, a couple others. Are these separate, Colin, that you put in the private chat than what I just read?
Yeah, the private chat is website.
All right. New member on the Status Coup website, Dave. Holla. And by the way, love you if you signed up on YouTube, but we do prefer our website. So if you could take that extra step, cancel YouTube, come to our website, statuscoup.com/join. There are some perks you could only get as a Status Coup member. One of those are the merchandise discounts at our store. You could only get if you sign up to our website. Jordan, $20 donation from Judith. Thanks for all the truth telling and on the ground coverage. Much gratitude. Thank you. $35 donation from Ariel. Thank you, Ariel. New member through our website, Steven signed up. Thank you, Steven. New Status Coup member through our website, Julian signed up. Hey, now we're talking. New member through our website, Dimitri. And Dimitri and Steven signed up as yearly members, which we always appreciate. We have a $5 a month membership. We have a $10 a month membership. We have a $20 a month membership and a $179 membership annually. Obviously, the annual, you get the same perks. It's more money for us up front, which is always appreciated. But whatever you could do, if $5 is what you could do a month, great. For those who could do $10, wonderful. For the $20 members, we did a promo for a while where if you signed up at $20 a month, you got a free copy of my book signed by me with a little note. I think I must have sent out 20 books because we got quite a few people who signed up. And if you want my book and want to sign up for $20, I'll fucking do it again. So yeah. All right. That's all we got for today. Remember, we have a lot of on-the-ground reporting that is up on our channel that you might not know about because YouTube is not always notifying you when we have new videos, when we have new work. We just posted a video from John and Ashley covering student protests. Why am I talking about it, Ashley? You tell the masses. The video we just posted where cops roughed up the Columbia students.
Yeah. So John and I, we've been outside of Columbia several times now, but this last one was outside of Columbia's graduation ceremony. So there were a lot of pro-Palestine protesters outside of the actual graduation ceremony, and of course, cops chose some of the student protesters to pick on. So that happened. That happens. I think every time we've been to something at Columbia, something has happened between cops and student protesters. And as you would expect, it's the NYPD that's instigating the violence. But yeah, this last one, there were also alumni of Columbia gathered outside of there, and they burnt their diplomas. So I spoke with a woman who graduated in 1960. So she was class of 1960 from Columbia. And she said that her parents fled Nazi-occupied France to come to the US. And she just said she couldn't believe that we are facing here what we're facing. So I spoke with a lot of people, again, who are alumni from the school who burnt their diplomas or were there, showing solidarity and protesting. And yeah, it was, you should watch the video. It was a good protest. And there were a lot of people who had a lot of really insightful things to say. One woman I spoke to was talking about, how in the future we will see Columbia kind of whitewashing this, as they have done with like the civil rights movement. They kind of have taken ownership of the student movement of the 60s, as if they were, all in on that at the time. And we can see from what they're doing now, how all in on the civil rights movement and the student protest movement of the 60s, they were all in on. So there were a lot of good conversations. I would definitely watch those. And again, there's always, just being there and bearing witness to the police and their aggression is always a good thing. And John is always great at capturing those moments. So do please, take a watch. It is, I think, worthwhile.
Absolutely. And by the way, I see five new free Substack members. I better see that multiplied by 10. I'm not good at math, but I believe that 5 times 10 would be 50. That's the link. There's almost 200 people watching here. If you're not signed up to our Substack, sign up for free. Don't make me come through the internet and do some things. I'll do it. Whatever it is, I will come through the internet and wreak havoc. Sign up, statuscoup.substack.com. Sign up for free. There's no reason you can't sign up to our Substack for free. statuscoup.substack.com. We also have, I believe we'll post tomorrow or another day. John was just at a Chuck Schumer book event. No, not for his leisure or enjoyment, but Chuck Schumer, as he's co-signing the U.S.-funded genocide of Palestinians, he's launching his own book. I don't know on what. So there was definitely disruptions there by pro-Palestine activists. So John got that. We'll post that. We have other clips from both John and Ashley's on the ground reporting that we have not released yet. Ashley's been doing great stuff recently on the ICE detention centers, which it's heinous, absolutely heinous. So all of this takes a lot of resources and time, and we're going to keep doing it as long as you fund it. With that, I thank you. I thank Colin, who prepared all this behind the scenes. Ashley, who I told 1 to 3, and it's now almost 4 for working sick. My wife for letting me do this. And quick story. I tried to get my wife to name my son, Flint. That's what I was pushing for. No, I'm not kidding. Because I think Flint, although it's a tragedy, is also a story about resistance and justice. And I wanted my son to be named after a story of resistance and justice and fight. Because when I think Flint, I think of a fighting spirit. Not to blow up her spot. She was not sold on Flint. So good compromise was River, which I also love. So hopefully one day soon I'll be able to introduce you folks to my son if my wife will allow me. With that, I bid you adieu. We'll be back at it soon. Again, we're going to be doing this every Sunday. Ashley and I will not be hosting every Sunday. We'll do probably once a month. Next Sunday will be our friends Zaina Day and Chuck Modi. Zaina Day and Chuck Modi. So they'll be great. After that, who knows? If you have ideas for people who could host, unfortunately I can't pay new people every week because it gets pricey, but I'll try. So please support us and subscribe to both the YouTube channel if you're not, and our Substack for free. Bye-bye.
Bye.